Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome, everybody, to Space Down Radio tonight. How y'all doing? My name is Dave Scott, hanging on out with all of you here tonight. We are going to take a night off UFOs until later when the UFO report comes out with Nicole Sackage, and we are going to get into some paranormal stories tonight with author and researcher Clarissa Vazquez out of the beautiful state of Colorado. Before we bring Clarissa in, let us say hello to everyone in our audience tonight so far. Race fan in the gold medal position. Awesome Man B taking home the silver. Nightmare with a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Michael Morris, D. Cohen, Brown Dwarf, and Dutch Hank. Dutch Hank will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Lisa C. Rui from Portugal. The Lip Blade. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you all here. Hi, John Hinoyosa. Nice to see you return. Kevin, the lovely Kira, thank you for coming on in. Very much appreciate you guys. Let's continue on with roll call. Eternity Eternal, welcome to our SOR chat room. Very much appreciate you joining us. And there's Jenny. Always good to see Jenny here. And who else do we have? Our man Millennium. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. The Doug Shelby has arrived. The Doug Shelby is here. About time. After missing the last couple of shows. Drop an elbow on the guy. All right, Kathy Evans, nice to see you. Jim Christie is here. The Jim Christie has arrived as well. Bombshell Bomber, good to see you. Phil Minervino, Jessica McCreary, Holly, nice to have you all here. Hi, Invisible Tracker. Invisible Tracker, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Let's continue on. Paramarv, Ozzy, oi, oi to you. Judy Wheeler, how are you? Mennonite Abe, Super Duke. How you doing, Super Duke? Magnus, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. And where are we here? Let's continue on. Donna C. Holly, how you doing, guy? Nice to have you both here. 405er, good to see you. Thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Penman. Yeah, he's full of ink. Real ink, though. None of this Bic kind of stuff. No, I use a Uniball 207. Best pen on the market. Just saying. All right. Teresa Davis, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here? I think we're caught up for right now. Excuse me. Let's see here. I want to remind you that the Super Chat is open. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much to those who will Super Chat later on in the show. And what else can I tell you? The store is open at spacedoutradio.com. We got some good swag there. Very, very good swag. So make sure you check that on out. And, there's Pixie Laura and Logan L. joining us just in time. And Mennonite Abe throwing up a hello, Captain Dave. Hello. Everyone's named Dave. How you doing? Good to see you. And we'll continue on here as we get closer to showtime. We are less than a minute away. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I'm excited because we're in for a good paranormal show tonight. Very good paranormal. You guys know I don't do a lot of paranormal shows, and for good reason. But Clarissa Vazquez is going to be amazing tonight. I can guarantee you that. Very much guarantee you that. It's going to be awesome. So let's just get ready to sit back, chill out, relax, and take this one all in, because you know what? We deserve some spookiness in our life. We really do. You know, you've got some ghosts, I've got some ghosts, and everyone's got ghosts. So let's just hang on out. Hey, Rach Beal, welcome to SOR Chat. Blue Cruz, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're 22 seconds away. I am pumped up. Hope you are too. And let's make this a good evening for all of us. Shall we? Why not? Because that's what we do. Hi, Bill WD40 over on Spreaker. How you doing, buddy? You're looking beautiful tonight. Let's do it, guys. Horns up. Let's rock. Mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old baby the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show of ghostly intentions tonight. Author Clarissa Vazquez joins us from the beautiful state of Colorado to tell us about some of the hauntings she's worked on the last 19 years. Moving on, we are going to go into hour number 3 with our resident swamp dweller and his report from the swamp. Nicole Sackett will be filling in for Tim Senor on the UFO report, and Shirky Poo has the news. Colorado native Clarissa Vazquez is an avid paranormal investigator. After serving in the United States Air Force and having her first paranormal experience while enlisted, Clarissa returned to Colorado and later found out the state Colorado Coalition of Paranormal Investigators in 2004. Her dedication and research of paranormal phenomena led her to subsequent callings as a minister. Known as simply a fearless leader to the CCPI team, Clarissa takes a very specific and scientific approach to her research and created the Phantom Hitchhiker Project in response to some very big names in the paranormal research community saying paranormal investigation, more specifically ghost hunting, cannot be conducted scientifically due to the fact that experiments are not conducted in a lab and there are too many variables. It is her stubborn, red-headed nature. Oh my, she may not have a soul, people. Where did my booking team find her if she doesn't have a soul? Anyways, we're going to let this one, maybe she's a daywalker, that's okay. And her can-do attitude that could set her apart from others in the paranormal research community and make her a true pioneer in the field. I'm excited because this is going to be a lot of fun tonight with Clarissa Vazquez. How are you, my friend? Good to have you on Spaced Out Radio tonight.
I am so excited to be here, Dave.
Now, do we have to worry about any of this redheaded stuff? Because, you know, a lot of you, there is the rumor, it's just a rumor, that redheads don't have souls. And I ask my friend Samantha Mowat this all the time. So are we safe? Are we safe on this show?
I've already had dinner. We're safe.
Okay. Woo! Woo! Now we can do this. Clarissa, all joking aside, thank you so much for taking the time to join us because, you know, we don't do a lot of paranormal on this show. And one of the detractors I have for the paranormal, not to start off negative, is a lot of these weekend warriors. They come on out and they act like they know everything about the paranormal. We see the television shows go into television and literally finding nothing on purpose. And there's some good, talented, incredibly smart people in the paranormal genre. There really is.
Mhm.
And I've been having the pleasure over the years to know a number and make friends with a number of them. Okay. But for you, the paranormal has become a real part of your life in trying to not only figure out the scientific process, but to figure out what's going on as well. And one of the things that I always worry about with people who play ghosties on the weekend is that they don't understand what it's all about. So let's learn a little bit about you and how you got into this. What happened? And by the way, thank you so much for your service. We really do appreciate it as an audience.
It was my honor to serve. So we're going to go back somewhere between 20 and 30 years ago. I'm not going to be specific because then my age will really show. Uh, but I had my first encounter with a ghost while I was serving in the U.S. Air Force. Uh, I saw a man who was just as tangible and three-dimensional as if you and I were standing in the same room together. He did look a little out of place. And so I approached, I got within about 10 feet and asked him if I could help him with something. And he looked at me and looked away and walked through a cinder block wall and disappeared.
Oh, that's
And yeah, and it was a structural wall. So it wasn't a wall that he could even like go around. Um, and so kind of left me scratching my head and didn't occur to me at the time to be frightened. And I went back the next day at the same time trying to find him, never encountered him again. Uh, but the area where I encountered him was in the basement of the hospital of the base where I was stationed. They were in the process of turning their morgue, what used to be their morgue, into a physical therapy department. And so all of that construction debris, uh, and the disruption of the structure itself. Anybody that's been in the field for a while knows that remodels, renovations, constructions can sometimes stir things up. And so that's what I encountered. The internet was still in its infancy. Paranormal TV wasn't a thing yet. So I was going to the library and getting every book I could get my hands on, reading about, what was it that just happened, and read about a couple of techniques for ghostly photography involving a Polaroid camera, and started learning about EVP with a big old clunky analog tape recorder. And again, I'm dating myself. That's how long ago this was. And the rest is history.
for you. I mean, it's easy to see how it has impacted you. Some
Mhm.
20, 30 years later, whatever
Mhm.
that date is, has literally made this one of the top priorities in your life. It's made you create an investigative team that you've been successful in running since 2004,
Mhm.
and it's also made you into a multi-talented writer on the
Mhm.
subject and author of numerous books, which can be found on Amazon as well. I mean, you jumped full feet into the deep end in the paranormal pool here. Why did you feel so strong that this had to become a big player in your life?
Um, it didn't really turn into a big player in my life until um, after the new millennium. Um, I, again, I was reading what I could get my hands on about it and doing a little bit of dabbling, little practicing, little, weekend warrior stuff, if you will. Um, but it wasn't until um, late 2003, early 2004, a mutual friend of mine and I uh, discovered that we had this shared interest. And so we would go to, cemeteries and, reported haunted locations in our area. And word kind of got out about what we were doing. And so we had people calling us up going, hey, you need to come check out my house, or you need to check out my office, or whatever. And things just exploded. We couldn't handle it, just the two of us, um, with a couple of cameras and some tape recorders. And so we uh, took on more members and invested in some equipment. And CCPI was born in September of 2004. We've been going strong for 18 years now, and it has literally become my life's work, primarily to help people to uh, feel comfortable in their personal space. Um, 99.9% of the investigations that we respond to and actually work on result in us being able to debunk what the client is experiencing. And so we're able to take that data and that knowledge and present it to the client and say, we believe you. We believe you're experiencing something, but what you're experiencing isn't necessarily paranormal in nature. This is what is causing this phenomena, and this is what is causing this phenomena. And so really it brings a sense of peace and a sense of calm. Number one, us going, we believe you. We believe you're experiencing something. And then number two, saying, this is what you're experiencing. Your home, your family, you're not in any danger. Just really giving them peace of mind, and so that they can be comfortable in their personal space.
Very cool, very cool. And I love the fact that you took your time with it. You wanted to get to know that this was something that was going to be something that you needed to do, not for everybody else, but yourself. And I think too many times, Clarissa, especially over the last few years, we see a lot of people getting into the paranormal for the sake of the thrill of the hunt, if we could call it that, rather than trying to find explanation to some of these lifelong stories. Because the one thing we all have in common, we're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And we all, I don't care if you're a science person, agnostic, atheist, Christian, whatever you may be, the one thing that scares us all is that we all know that there's a time limit on this.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it scares the hell out of me. It literally scares the daylights out of me just
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it. Like, I will go into a major anxiety attack over it. The idea, though, is this: the point that I'm trying to get at here, if I could just get to the words, is the fact that we need people like yourself and others to be solving some of these mysteries as to what happens after we die. Are
Mm-hmm.
we one and done, ashes, ashes, dust to dust? Or are we actually moving on, whether it's heavenly and biblically, or whether it's just all part of the process of consciousness? I mean, where do you stand on this?
Um, I have kind of uh, a roundabout approach to this. Um, there's a lot of theories about what happens and how it pertains to some of these ghostly experiences that people have. Um, for those that believe in purgatory, one of the theories is that the ghosts that we experience are those that are in purgatory awaiting judgment. Um, you know, Me personally, um, I think that we're given a choice. We can either come back and do it again, or if we've learned the lessons that we're supposed to learn, then we get to go on to the next level, whether that's heaven or a different level of consciousness, or what have you. We just don't know. But that's part of why um, I'm so thorough and strict, for lack of a better word, about my research, is because I would really like to have um, some of these answers uncovered if possible. Um, and for me personally, I need to have it backed up with data. I need to be able to replicate my findings so that I can take this information and say, okay, this is what I've discovered, and I've got this and this to back it up. So I've got something credible to take to the general public.
What is the difference between good research and getting results from that and being super skeptical. Because, one of the things I laugh at is I got to move my microphone here because I'm going to don't hold my acting against me here. Okay. But there's always this cross-armed pose for the team skeptic. And for some reason, it's mandatory on every website, that every ghost team website, that the skeptic poses on an angle with their arms folded and their head back with an angry look on their face. So what's the difference between quality evidence and getting the answers through evidence comparatively to somebody who has to play the team skeptic and shoot down everything that's come through?
Well, and my team will be the first ones to tell you that 9 times out of 10, I'm the one that shoots down, the data that they're bringing to me, going, "Oh my gosh, I think I got something," and then I go and debunk it. I'm very skeptical. Case in point, I am not a believer in orbs. Through my research over the last several decades, I've been able to uncover a number of explanations for the spherical objects that are being caught on cameras, much to the dismay of one of the very popular TV shows out there. And I did write a book about it. It came out in 2018. I co-authored it with Chris Carr. And it's called Debunking Common Paranormal Myths, Exploring Psychosomatic Pareidolia. And really what the terminology applies to is, the people that are so eager and so hungry to capture quote unquote evidence. I hate that word evidence. To me, evidence is something that you can prove in court. I prefer the term data. I can collect data, I can analyze data, I can back it up with more data if it's legit. And these people are so eager and so hungry to get their evidence that everything they interpret everything to be paranormal. Every sound, every photo, every little tiny thing. When really it's not.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, you have to have a level of sensibility going into every paranormal investigation, but I mean, I guess where I'm looking at this is for people who don't understand what weekend warrior syndrome is in the paranormal, why don't you take the time to explain that?
So weekend warrior syndrome, those are the people that are just in it. They're the thrill seekers. They're in it for the adrenaline rush. They're in it for the scare factor. They're not investigating for the purpose of obtaining credible data or the purpose of helping people. They're in it for personal gain, fame and fortune, and a really good rush. It's kind of sad.
That would probably be an excellent description of it all. I would consider myself a weekend warrior. Like when I go, with my friends, or I used to run a tour here at the local museum to help raise money. I never brought a camera. I never brought anything. Like for me, I'm kind of selfish, and I can admit that. I'm selfish because I want the experience for myself. I want to feel the experience. I want to take it all in. Whether I'm have something attached to me, or whether I see something out of my eye, or whatever. I'm just about me, myself, and I, because I like telling a good story, right? And I want to make sure I'm as accurate as possible. That being said, I don't consider myself a ghost hunter. I don't consider myself a ufologist. I don't consider myself a cryptid hunter, even though the last 4 Saturdays I've been out in the forest by my Sasquatch gifting site waiting for Bigfoot to come join me for a hot dog. It hasn't happened. and I'm getting pissed off about that.
Oh,
But nonetheless, there are people out there like you who are searching for answers to these huge life questions. What are the questions that you would like to at least have a glimpse into the answers to?
uh, I think the the main one really would be the theology question. It's like, the heaven and hell and supreme creator. What really happens? Who's right? There's so many different uh, theories and variations and beliefs and principles and concepts, and um, from supreme creator, heaven and hell, to absolutely nothing, circle of life kind of thing. um, and so I think that's the big question. um, the smaller question, for me, would be, does our consciousness in fact survive physical death?
And what's your answer on that so far?
So far, yeah. So based on the data that I've collected, some of it is undisputable. In 2017, we captured an EVP inadvertently, because it was captured with a GoPro. It wasn't even part of an EVP session where we were asking questions. And the GoPro camera caught this voice just absolutely screaming, going, "I don't want to die, mommy." And we go back thinking that we had absolutely zero personal experiences and that there was really nothing going on at this location, only to review that GoPro footage and go, "Whoa, where did that come from?" And so our next trip to that location, we were kind of able to tailor around that EVP and get even more data to kind of back things up.
What's your thoughts on the idea that maybe, just maybe, there are no ghosts, but there are so many different timelines
Mm-hmm.
going on at once that maybe you've ran into a different timeline that's already happened in our universe,
Mm-hmm.
but hasn't happened on a different timeline yet?
Yeah, like a parallel dimension, or possibly even, if you really want to try to work your noodle on it, maybe even time travel. That there's some kind of glitch in the matrix from somebody time traveling that's enabling us to have some of these experiences. I kind of lean more toward the parallel dimension theories a little bit. I think it's definitely possible and plausible that there could be an infinite number of universes, um, and in every single one of those universes, there is absolutely no circumstance or situation where the me of those universes would like yellow mustard.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And you know what? We'll have to see what's going on here, with it as we continue on the Night Talking Paranormal all night long. I want to get into the scientific side
Sure.
when we come back, because I'm one of those who believes that there isn't a lot of science to
Hmm.
go into the paranormal. I'm not saying it can't happen. Not saying that at all. The Gansfeld experiment is kind of interesting. There's a lot of very interesting parts to this that I think correlate with a lot of different answers. It isn't about people, what kind of gear do you use? Because it isn't about that whatsoever. It's about literal science here, and that's what we're going to get into with Clarissa Vazquez, author of numerous books that can be found on Amazon. I highly suggest you head on over to Amazon. It is literally filled with Clarissa Vazquez paranormal books. If you need it, you got it right there. It'll add to your library, and that's where we all want to do, is add good books, good knowledge to our libraries, don't we? I love it. I love a good book. So much better than, reading something on a tablet. Can't stand that. We need more bookstores again. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we are clear. We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Gary and Gary's Beard, 2 separate entities. Thank you for that great super chat, buddy. Really appreciate you, my man. I got to be calling you here soon. I do. I'm going to call you. All right, bear with me here. I got to scroll up here, make sure I didn't forget anything. All right, I'm good. There we go. That was a fast first half hour.
Yeah.
Dirty Filth is not here tonight drawing cartoons because he is for work at a work conference, and he's been having to work late. And that's why he hasn't been. He's more in the chat room. He should be back tomorrow night. I believe tomorrow night will be his return. Gary, no, you shouldn't be scared unless you don't send me that picture of your handsome beard. Yeah. Hi, Bobbert. Good to have you here. Yeah, bribery at its best right there, Gary. Bribery at its best. Let's see here. I enjoy watching Dirty Filth draw nightly, too. You wouldn't believe how many people we actually get who complain. Doesn't happen often as much anymore. But for a while there, it was like daily I was getting hit up on comments. What is this goofball doing drawing cartoons during the show? I said, I don't really care. So I love it. It adds a new dimension. Grant Tavius, my man. Yes, I will, Gary. I will. Let's touch base here in the next day or two. And I hope you're feeling safe down there, man. I know you got you're getting, I don't know how hard you're getting hit by the hurricane, but I hope you're safe, man. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. By the way, just so you all know, Clarissa plays a very mean game of Minesweeper. She does. I was listening to it before the show. Hot damn, she's quick on them keys. Mike Bothwell, how you doing, bud? Good to have you here. This is true, Kira. Very true. Dirty Filth is awesome and has some serious chest hair competing with my hair on my head. It's amazing. The dude is bald as anything up top, but man, he's like a Sasquatch as soon as he undoes that first button on his shirt. Scary. All right. We have about 90 seconds, Clarissa.
Sounds good. So we scheduled this interview before I could get a review copy of the new book sent out to you.
Oh, I don't read books.
Oh, you don't?
No, they shut me off.
Really? That's too bad.
Weird story. I love books, and that bugs me. I have a collection of Tom Clancy books, Jack Ryan books that I am way behind on because of that. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley loves his spaced out radio. That's That's all I got.
Nice.
Eddie, good to see you. And we got 27 seconds before we're going to relaunch here. Ozzy, oi, oi to you, man. Oh, wow. Wow, that's kind of cool. All right. Well, let's see here. Here we go, everyone. Second half hour coming up right now. Let's do this thing. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We're going to head down the scientific road here along the paranormal scenes. As author, researcher Clarissa Vazquez out of the beautiful state of Colorado is here talking paranormal stories and adventures all night long with us. And Clarissa, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to start off. I don't want to start off negative, but I'm going to. Okay. I have my biggest pet peeve with paranormal investigators. You ask anybody in our audience, you ask any of my paranormal friends, I'll say, what is my biggest pet peeve of the paranormal? And they say the word science. And it drives me nuts because I know that 9.9 teams out of 10, there is not a single person on that team who has done a scientific experiment since they were in high school. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, they do not understand the scientific premise, purpose, procedure, hypothesis, the results, everything that goes along with an actual experiment. Mm-hmm. Now, you're doing this differently, and I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here because this is something that you have been practicing for a long time in trying to find it. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a scientist or an amateur scientist or whatever. The fact is, this is what you are doing in order to try and prove or disprove the fact that there is life after death. Why did you come to this conclusion that this is the way you wanted to do things?
So, I really wanted to do something that would set the research of my organization apart from the weekend warriors. Let's do something worthwhile. Yes, it's great that that we're helping people and we're serving our communities and everything, but what are we contributing to society? And so somebody came up to me many, many years ago and threw a theory at me about roadside locations where a vehicle accident had resulted in a fatality. And I said, I think I can work with that. And it took about a year to put it together and get it tweaked together with a thesis and proposed outcomes and controls and variables. And in 2010, the Phantom Hitchhiker Project was born. And the objective was to see if these roadside locations resulted in phantom hitchhikers or resulted in geographic psychic trauma attached to the land itself where these deaths had occurred. And so the project in and of itself really didn't turn up a lot of phantom hitchhikers, but what we did prove is that it can be done scientifically. You can establish a thesis, proposed outcomes, a set of controls, a set of variables, and uh, conduct your experiments and replicate your findings. So we proved that it can be done. There's got to be a specific set of parameters within your experiment, but we proved that it can be done. It's not the norm. It's not the mainstream at all, and it cannot be applied to this particular project cannot be applied to anywhere other than roadsides. But it's really it's a jumping off point, if you will. I think it's really getting the ball rolling as far as developing these research projects and developing the tactics and the necessary controls to have this form of research regarded by the scientific community as something other than pseudoscience. And so we ran the project for 10 years. And and really all I've got as the proof that it can be done is this great book that just came out on Monday. So
I love it. What kind of experiments are you doing in order to do this? Because one of the arguments that a lot of scientific minds have with the paranormal is that you're not in a concrete type location. You're not in a location where you could be in a controlled environment to see if it happens again.
Right. And so, the people that come to me and say, you're not in a lab. It's like, no, we're not in a lab. But archaeologists, paleontologists, zoologists, geologists, they collect their data out in the field and then take it back to the lab for analysis. And that's what we do. We obtain our data out in the field and then take it back for analysis at a separate location, whether it's somebody's living room table or oftentimes it's my bed, because that's where I'm most comfortable, listening to audio files or going over video or countless pictures and stuff like that. So really, the argument about not being in a controlled environment can be thrown out the window. Whereas one of the established controls are the locations themselves. The one thing that these locations all have in common is that they are roadside locations where a vehicle accident resulted in at least one human fatality.
Okay, so you have the cause, you have the understanding of what's happening here.
Mhm.
What kind of results have you been able to predetermine so far from your evidence?
So with the data that we collected, we got a couple of EVP files in the 10 years that we did it. So we were able to conclude that these roadside locations do not necessarily result in phantom hitchhikers or geographic trauma related encounters. So, that it would have been great if we could have said, yes, all of these locations have, phantom hitchhikers, or they have wandering spirits, or they have, some kind of residual energy attached to them. And most of them don't.
Okay, so if most of them don't, how do you narrow that down?
How do we narrow it down to uh,
How do you narrow it down to refining what is part of the investigation and what is, say, fodder, lack of a better.
so the ones that where we did obtain some sort of data, we were able to go back and duplicate our results there. The locations, that didn't result in usable data, we visited them more than once to see if we could get different results. Multiple attempts, no results. That location was set aside, and a different location was explored. We also incorporated time, temperature, and lunar phase into our experiments. There are a lot of popular theories surrounding time, temperature, lunar phase. So we incorporated those controls into our experiment as well.
Awesome. Awesome. How did you figure out what works and what doesn't in your experimentation? Because that's one thing about science. I mean, it's changing for absolutely everything. Did you notice those patterns with the paranormal as well?
Absolutely. Things are changing all the time, um, right down to the equipment that is being offered for researchers to use. And so one of the controls that we had to maintain was the equipment that we use. We couldn't just incorporate, the newest piece of equipment into what we were doing, because then it would throw off our data. We had to remain consistent with what we were doing. Um, we could have started the experiment all over again and gone back and revisited some locations with different equipment, but we really didn't feel that that would be the best use of our time.
Okay, so take our audience through a night investigation. How you start, how you begin, choosing the location. How are you choosing which scientific experiments to use?
Okay, so with the Phantom Hitchhiker Project, and again, the entire project, right down to the research paper and the project proposal, is actually outlined in the book. So if there are any paranormal researchers out there that are interested in potentially adopting this project, it is laid out in this book. Um, so we chose to operate during the three warmest months of the year, which for us here in Colorado are July, August, and September. We operated only on the night when the moon is at 100% full. So, we didn't do, the days leading up to the full moon or the days after. 100% full, which is another control. And we started the experiment at precisely midnight. So we would go to a known roadside location where there was a human fatality. These are really easy to find out here in Colorado. You can find, there's crosses on the highway or the city streets or wherever the accident took place. Some states don't allow that. South Dakota actually has a really cool program. They put up think signs. They don't allow memorial markers by the family and friends. They actually have think signs. The state puts up a sign saying think, don't die, trying to deter another accident at that location for whatever reason. So we find the location, we go, and the experiment begins at the stroke of midnight. There are theories surrounding midnight being conducive to paranormal activity. So the experiment starts at exactly midnight, using the exact same equipment for every location. We ask a series of EVP questions, the same EVP questions in the same order, with the same duration in between each question. The entire experiment for the night lasts less than 5 minutes. We show up, we snap a photograph for validation that we are that we're there, and we investigated this specific location. We ask a series of EVP questions and take some EMF measurements, to see if we're getting any changes in EMF or temperature fluctuations, things like that. See if we check for any fluctuations during the course, but it all boils down to the same 10 EVP questions, and then we're done. It's pretty cut and dry.
You're telling me you guys are conducting an entire specific scientific experimentation of the paranormal in 5 to 10 minutes.
In under 5 minutes, yes. It takes us longer to analyze the data than it does to actually conduct the experiment.
I'm stunned because normally teams go into a location, they're there 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours plus.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wasting any time.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so in that 5 minutes, what are you doing? I mean, that's barely enough time for most people to smoke a cigarette.
And I would agree with you if I was still a smoker, but I quit that years ago. So we ask, like I said, while we are monitoring for temperature fluctuations and EMF fluctuations, we're asking a specific set of EVP questions, the exact same questions in the exact same order, with the exact duration in between. We're timing it. So you ask the question, you wait 30 seconds, you move on to the next question. You wait 30 seconds, you move on to the next question. And within 5 minutes, you're done. Like I said, it takes us longer to analyze the data than it does to conduct the experiment itself.
Okay. Like 5 minutes isn't a long time to get a spirit comfortable with you. Or I've been in rooms that have been absolutely silent, and then you go back there a couple of hours later and all of a sudden the ghost is like talking like a brand new baby that's found its voice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you do that in just 5 minutes?
Well, and that's why we make repeat trips to establish familiarity and develop a rapport, if you will. And after probably 5 trips to the location, if we didn't get anything that we could use, we would set that location aside and focus on a different location.
Okay, so you are going back to that location for follow-up study.
Absolutely.
So how many locations are you working on right now?
30.
Okay. So so out of those 30, are you cross-examining all the evidence from all 30?
Yeah, we are cross-referencing. We're looking at the locations that had data that we were able to use. We're looking at it going, what sets this place apart from other locations. We are finding that one specific geographic region here in Colorado is more successful than others.
And why is that?
We think the area in question has an underground coal mine that caught fire about 100 years ago, and it's still on fire to this day. The Colorado River runs parallel to that coal mine, to that coal fire, and there is a lot of geothermal activity there. There's a lot of hot springs in the area, and so there's a lot of contributing factors that we think are acting as like a conduit.
Do you think that those hot spots are knowing that you guys are investigating those areas?
I don't know if they know we're investigating them or not. We haven't had answers to our questions that would give us some sense of consciousness. The questions we ask, can you tell us your name? Do you know what year it is? Things like that. And, we're not getting responses like, oh, good to see you again, stuff like that. We are getting some responses to questions.
Okay, so the kind of questions that you were asking in that short 5-6 minute period,
Mm-hmm.
what are you asking? Because obviously you've had to really think about those questions rather like, do you know that you're dead? Did you die in the car accident?
Well, see,
What
and
did the clock say? I mean,
Yeah, we do not ask questions that allude to their death. In the event that they don't know they're dead, um, we feel it's not our place to tell them. It's not our place to make them aware. Um, the one thing that my investigators and we all discuss in depth is, how would you feel if someone whom you had never met before came up to you and said, "How did you die? When did you die? Where did you die? You know you're dead, right?" And to the best of your knowledge, Dave, you're not dead.
not that I know of. Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you how I do know. I have a plethora of Australian listeners who live in the future.
Ah.
And I ask them every day, am I alive tomorrow? And they all say yes. So this is how I know I made it to the next day.
Awesome. Yeah. So, getting back to that, we really don't allude to the fact that they're dead. But the questions that we ask is there anyone here with us? Can you tell us your name? Where do you live? How old are you? And can you tell us what year it is?
Sorry, we had just a little bit of an audio glitch
Oh,
there. My literally, as you're going through those questions, my audio crashed.
Wow.
And that's why I put my hand up, because I had to reset my audio.
Okay.
So,
you want me to go through them again real quick?
See if it happens again. If it does, we got some woo happening.
Interesting. Okay, so the first question is there anyone here with us? Can you tell us your name? Where do you live? How old are you? Can you tell us what year it is?
That's it.
That's it.
So how do you formulate a scientific understanding of the spirits with those 6, I'm gonna be honest, not so profound questions?
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing?
Well, you've heard of the KISS method, keep it simple.
Yes.
And because we're still in the very beginning stages of really learning what paranormal research is. Granted, we've made leaps and bounds from the days of Hans Holzer and the Warrens, but we're still trying to figure out what it is and how to do it properly. There are no set guidelines. And so with this initial experiment, we really kept it simple. And
so before we go to break here in about 45 seconds, when you go back to that same location, do you ask those same questions again?
Yes.
For confirmation?
Yes. For confirmation, validation, repetition. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's the very definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result.
I love that saying.
And that's what we do. It's the very definition of insanity.
My goodness. Clarissa, I have so many questions for you coming into hour number 2 here on Spaced Out Radio tonight, because I need to understand this more. I think I'm getting it. I think I'm liking it. But there is just some serious questions that I can't wait to ask. I think you're open. I think you're honest. And damn it, I think you're doing it the right way. Clarissa Vazquez on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Find all of her books at Amazon.com. She's got a ton of them, all dealing with the paranormal. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned with more Phantom Hitchhiker Project. Woohoo! This is awesome. Awesome. I hope you're having fun.
I'm having a great time.
Me too. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to put you in the green room. I will be. No, I'm still right here. I'll be right back, though. You guys just sit tight, and if you're in the audience, we'll be back here in a minute. All right. Dave is back. Clarissa is back. And Dave's headphones are back. We got just over 1 minute here. And we shall hang on out. Yeah. What a good show so far.
I'm
Solid.
having
Solid.
fun.
Me too. Thank you for doing this.
Ah, my pleasure.
Let's see. And Merle is here, everyone. Merle it up, people. This is my buddy Merle. Remember the investigator I was talking to you about earlier that was
Mhm.
absolutely terrible and no good could ever come of hanging out with him? That's the one right there. I'm kidding, Merle. I'm kidding. Merle it up, audience. Merle it up. Love my Merle, man. Love my Merle. Mike Bothwell, thank you so much for the super chat, along with T2E and Cat Chaser, Trisha, Doug Shelby, the Doug Shelby, and Gary. Thank you so much for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. And it's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. And let's make this happen. Here comes hour number 2 right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight. The SOR Space Travelers Club, Jacent. Jacent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue the paranormal focus tonight, talking about science and ghosts with author and researcher out of Colorado, Clarissa Vazquez. You can find many of her books on Amazon.com, including her brand new one that just came out just a couple of days ago, The Phantom Hitchhiker Project at America's Haunted Roadways. Clarissa, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you here. Science. Let's get into the science of everything. This is what we need to do. This is why you are here. And you know what? I'm having a good time having you explain everything, because I think at times we try to overcomplicate any sort of investigation. We don't want to leave a location missing out on that EVP, on that photo, on that video of something happening.
Mhm.
And therefore we go over and over again for hours until we're so wasted from energy that we just have no choice but to pack it up. Yet you are doing your investigations in literally 5 to 10 minutes. Your setup literally takes longer than your investigation. You ask specific questions.
Yeah, for
Go
the
ahead.
Phantom Hitchhiker Project, yes. Now, when we are going into someone's home or business, we're there a lot longer than 5 to 10 minutes. But when we're doing Phantom Hitchhiker research, it takes more to set up, tear down, and go over the data than it does to actually conduct the investigation.
Okay, so for the Phantom Hitchhiker Project, though, the scientific experimentation you're looking for is repetition.
Mhm.
What happens? Okay, let's go with this. How often are you getting the same answers at the same locations?
The locations where we have obtained duplicate results, we are getting the same answers to the same questions. We have one location where we go, can you tell us your name? And every time we get Bob. And it's really, it's the quality of the Bob. It's the same voice. It's the same pronunciation. It's always Bob. It's not like Bob, one time, or Bob, or Bob. It's always, every time, Bob. So, that's we always look forward to going and chatting with Bob.
Okay. So considering this Bob ghost comes up to you guys every time, I
Mhm.
mean, do you end up changing the line of questioning? How do
Yeah.
you take it to step 2?
We haven't developed step 2 yet. It took us 10 years to work step 1. And so we haven't developed step 2 yet. That's still coming. We are, again, baby steps, uh, keeping it simple. And so we need to, develop another project with expanded parameters, a different thesis, different hypotheses, and different parameters, projected outcomes, and see what do we want to accomplish with phase 2.
Okay. So considering you are trying this at 30 different locations, that means that you are looking for the same answers in those. Out of those 30 locations, how many locations are you getting the exact same results?
Right now, yeah, right now we're just getting one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And at the other 29, what's happening?
At the other 29, it's either a whole lot of nothing or it's hit or miss.
So you might go to a location 4 or 5 times, not hear anything,
Mm-hmm.
or hear something different. And then on that 6th time,
Mm-hmm.
you get the same results as number 1.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm a little confused here. And because I do think it's smart. Trust me, I do think it's smart. But the fact that maybe one every 4, 5, 6 times you're getting the same result, what do you think is happening in between?
So there could be different factors playing into it. Let's say that we investigate location ABC, and we hit it in July, August, and September, but we only get results or we only get usable data in July. So then we hit it again the following year, July, August, and September, and we only get results in July. So then we got to kind of look at, okay, why are we only getting that kind of credible data in July? Is it the anniversary? Is it close to the anniversary of the accident? Are there weather factors playing into it? Is there a thunderstorm, rolling through, that night in July? There are other things that we have to look at to try to go, okay, why are we only getting results, during the July session, or the August session, or the September session, or you know so there's a whole bunch of extenuating circumstances that play into the variable aspect of the experiment.
Okay. All right. So what happens? Okay, you're only doing this during the warm months.
Mm-hmm.
Why just the warm months?
Because we feel it's entirely too dangerous for us to be out on the side of the road in the middle of the night during winter.
I can attest to that being where I live.
Yeah.
It's cold too.
Yeah.
But what about spring and
nice.
fall?
Spring and fall, those are, again, we can, when we go into phase two. Uh, but we really wanted consistency with the temperatures. And so July, August, and September, those temperatures are pretty consistent at night uh, out here in Colorado.
Right. Okay. So your climate is much like my climate. You're just about 1,500 feet higher than I am. But we
Roughly.
get the same type of winters, same type of wind chill,
Mm-hmm.
and that sucks. Outside of the dangers of investigating at those times, which I agree with you, I mean, you got to be careful, especially when you're doing road accidents,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that have claimed lives.
Right.
Do you look at it as the other season, say spring or fall, you aren't getting the same results as you do in summer?
I would love to, work on this more, during the spring and fall. Do a second phase of the experiment, and include the cooler months uh, in there, and see if our data changes in any way. See if the cooler temperatures or the drier or wetter air plays into that. Whether depending on spring or fall. Fall tends to be a little drier than spring out here, and I would like to throw in some of those additional variables. But again, the objective of this initial experiment was to try to whittle down the variables and stick to the controls. Um, so a second phase of the experiment, can be revamped to include some other, um, atmospheric conditions.
Outside of atmospheric condition, what else are you studying?
Lunar phase. Uh, we only investigate on the night when the moon is 100% full. Sci- Scientific studies have shown that there are changes in human and animal behavior. People and animals tend to be more active during the full moon. And one of the popular theories about surrounding paranormal phenomena is that ghosts tend to be more active during the full moon. And so we are, conducting these experiments in conjunction with the full moon to see if that has, to see if that applies. Are we getting these results during the full moon? And on the occasions when we are getting credible data, we are getting it during the full moon.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So why do you think there's an enhancement during full moons compared to say new moons or crescent moons?
That I don't know. The the lunar gravity affects, it affects the tides, not just in the oceans, but in lakes and rivers as well. They all have a little bit of a tide, and that's all based on the gravitational pull of the moon. So I'm not 100% sure how the lunar phase affects human and animal behavior, but we do know it affects the living. And so, again, that a really popular theory out there is that it also applies to the not living.
Hmm. You got me thinking here.
Okay.
Have any of the spirits that you have developed a relationship with, if I can use that term,
Mm-hmm.
showed you themselves?
During the course of this experiment, no. We have had, during some of our residential cases, we've had a couple that have been more than forthcoming um, to say, hey, I'm here. We had one uh, physically show himself, um, and there were three of us that witnessed him walk into the room and sit down on the sofa right across from us, and everybody was kind of like, okay, that's compelling. Others are um, rather vocal. Like the one that we had on the GoPro saying, "I don't want to die." Uh, that was actually recorded in a neighborhood where the next street over there had been a pretty brutal fatality.
Right. Why car accidents?
It's a common denominator. It's a control. It's one more thing that each of these locations has in common.
Okay, so 30 locations, 30 car accidents that took the lives of a minimum of 30 people.
Correct.
Okay, so the idea behind this is to keep everything the same. I think our audience needs to understand that. You're
Mhm.
not going to go to a home where, say, a family was murdered. You're not going to go to a bar where, a couple people were shot up
No,
and killed.
no, we're
No.
not going to conduct this experiment. No, not.
Okay. So you keep it with car accidents. Obviously, you're doing this silently, even though you're public about it, talking about it now.
Mhm.
You're keeping the locations and everything kind of silent for
Mhm.
probably the sake of the family and
Absolutely.
the sake of the results and everything like that.
Mhm.
Okay, how hard is it to keep silence on it when you're at a location and people are driving by you?
That's uh, it's less common when you're investigating at midnight. There are significantly fewer people on the road. So that does cut down on the ambient noise and the pollution, if you will, from the vehicles.
Have the police ever pulled up and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?"
Only once. Only once. Um, we did have a state trooper pull over, and of course, we're in uniform. We, uh, my organization, we've got a very professional uniform, and we're all in uniform. We're like, hey, we're at this location. We're asking a couple of questions. We're not going to be here very long. We hadn't even. It was just prior to midnight. We were still setting up, and trooper said, "Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay, and nobody was hurt or needed help," and he went on his merry way.
Didn't stop and say, "Hey, can I play?"
No, although we did just in the last 2 weeks have a state trooper apply for membership, so we're going to be interviewing him on Saturday.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, so outside of this experiment, what have even though we're still on the topic of it,
Mhm.
what are some of the comments that other people in the paranormal are making about what you're doing?
Um, some comments are that the parameters are too narrow, and others are that the parameters are too broad, or that there aren't enough EVP questions. Um, and again, I for this initial experiment, I wanted to keep it simple, so that really anybody that's serious about conducting research scientifically can adopt this project, um, and maybe the results in, say, Louisiana are different than the results in Colorado due to different atmospheric conditions during July, August, and September. The temperatures are all pretty consistent during those months down in Louisiana. So, but there's more humidity in the air, and water conducts electricity. It conducts energy, and so that maybe that's a more efficient conduit than conducting this experiment here in Colorado.
Gotcha. Fully understand. I mean, are there other teams across the United States conducting this same experiment with you?
There is only one other team that requested the project, and that was several years ago, and I think they've abandoned it because we haven't heard anything from them in a very long time.
I would assume that they abandoned it. Are you shocked, though, that more other teams will not jump on board just to even see what's going on?
No, not real. I'm not really shocked. As you and I discussed during the first half hour of the show, a lot of people are in this for the adrenaline rush, the scare factor, the fame and fortune. They're not in it to make scientific advances or to help people feel comfortable in their surroundings. They're in it for different reasons than what I'm in it for.
What results are you hoping from this?
The results that I was initially hoping for are different than the results that I got. I was hoping to show that these accidents resulted in cases of geographic psychic trauma and subsequent phantom hitchhikers. And really that wasn't the case. But what we ended up proving was that this can be done scientifically. It's on a very small scale, but it can be done.
But it's a start.
It's a start. Baby step.
Why do you think many other paranormal teams are not as excited about jumping on the true scientific bandwagon of solving paranormal?
My personal opinion is, because standards and regulations would come into play. And right now it's pretty much a free-for-all. There are no experts. And it's standards and regulations, and some pretty strict rules would have to come into play if everybody started adhering to the scientific side, and people don't want to do that.
Is it the weekend warrior syndrome?
More than likely. And there are other people out there who have, they've got the best of intentions, but they want to play by their own rules, and they don't want to conform. They're happy with the way they've been doing things for however long they've been doing it, or they're happy with mimicking the guy in the too tight t-shirt on television, and whose name will not be mentioned. They're happy with the way they do things, which may or may not be an appropriate way to do things.
We've got about 1 minute to go here. Clarissa Vazquez will be with us until the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. When we return from the break here at the bottom of the hour, Clarissa, I want to get into some of your own ghost stories. I'm sure you have quite a few that you could share with us the next half hour. Let's figure out your top three. Let's go into detail in your top three. Okay. And because I know our audience would love to hear some ghost stories coming on from you in the Colorado area, but I love your experiment, and I really hope that you continue to pursue it and get the best results you can. I think it's exciting. I really do. And it's just like my friend Ross Allison up here in Seattle, who has created a documentary type series called Parasense, where they put naked people into haunted buildings to try and discover how a spirit will communicate with the true human body, not with clothing on. And it's phenomenal, the results he's getting.
I want to see that documentary. That would, and not just for the naked people aspect. I want to see what the interaction is.
It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Clarissa Vazquez. You can find all her books at Amazon.com. We got her till the top of the hour. I'm looking forward to it. Love my paranormal talk on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Hi, Eric the Hobbit. How are you? Good to see you. Parkerson. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you back. Yeah, Ross Allison. Parasense. I haven't seen the documentary yet.
Okay.
It's weird. There are certain documentaries that you can get in the United States, but you can't get them in Canada, even though they're on, say, Netflix or Hulu or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty incredible the results that they are getting, and that they actually Ross has a lead scientist, like a true scientist who
Mm-hmm.
is conducting the experimentation
Mm-hmm.
on the system, because nobody had done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has wandered or sat in a chair in a haunted building or whatever, to see the results of what ghosts can do to the human body. I mean, we look at all these marks and bruises that we say show up. Well, this is their opportunity to test that out, and they're doing it on camera.
That's really, really cool. And do they have male and female test
Both.
subjects? Okay.
Yeah. They found it very easy. Hi, Tokeland. How you doing, man? They found it very easy to find male figures to come on in.
Yeah.
Female, they have not, and it's done very professionally. Like it's not a porno thing,
Right.
or there's not people having sex or
Right.
investigating naked. These are people who are sitting in a chair or standing up, and there's cameras all around them. They're covered up the moment that they are off, when they've stopped filming. So it really is coming at this from a classy, professional type of filming.
Nice.
Eric the Purple Hobbit wants to know, whereabouts in Colorado are you from? I
just answered him.
Oh, okay. Well, make sure you hit Miss CV. Make sure you hit subscribe on our channel.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, I'm that cheap. I want your subscription.
I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, it's pretty cool with the way Ross is doing everything. You should actually add him on Facebook. Ross Allison with 2 L's.
Ross Allison. I can find something to right on.
And they try, and they don't care, what a person's body. It's not about the body. It's about the results of, people getting touched, or their hair grabbed, or their elbow poked, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Wrote it down so I can remember to do that. To check him out.
Yeah, I think you'll like him.
Joe Monk says we're all naked under our clothes. Truer words have never been spoken.
Yes. Joe's he's an alien abductee who never admits to it.
Aha.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, again for another great super chat. Really appreciate that, man, my fellow Canadian. Hi, Ozzy Ange. How are you?
You really do have quite the Australian following.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
wonderful.
There's a few of them in here tonight. A few of them are missing. Steam Train Mark is missing. Paul Holland is missing. A few others. Best Canadian bands ever while on commercial, Dave. Oh, man. You're going to hate me. I like Nickelback. I like Bryan Adams. Okay? I do. I'm sorry. We
Don't
got 10
apologize for
seconds.
loving Nickelback.
I like Triumph. Triumph back in the day.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, here we go, everyone. Tragically Hip, number 1. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with Clarissa Vazquez. We have this paranormal investigator and author running us right to the top of the hour with some of her spooky encounters over the years. You can find all of Clarissa's books at Amazon.com. Just type in her name, Clarissa Vazquez. Clarissa, welcome back.
Thank you.
Gonna ask you, what's your favorite haunting story or ghost story?
Oh gosh, I've got 3, really. And 2 are very simple, really, and very personal. Actually, a very, very, very dear friend of mine passed away in February of 2020, and she and I were very, very close. And as soon as I heard about her passing, here I am in the middle of my grief, consuming copious amounts of alcohol and just crying hysterically. I'm in the living room, just, tears, and I've got the audio recorder going. I'm like, please talk to me. And she knew what I did. She supported what I did, even let me investigate her house several times. And I'm saying, please, are you here? Are you here? Are you here? And I kind of let my mind wander a tiny bit. And I got to thinking about all of the times that we would be in her kitchen listening to music. And she had this goofy little dance where she would just kind of get one shoulder and one hip going. And I always thought it was the most ridiculous dance ever. And I caught myself, kind of daydreaming, and I said, oh, I can't stop thinking about the way you danced in the kitchen. And I waited a couple hours to go back over and listen to the audio, and the first part of it, is just me blubbering hysterically, please, please talk to me, please. And then it gets quiet and I zone out and I hear her voice go, dance with me. Before you hear me say, I can't stop thinking about the way you danced in the kitchen. And so that's one of my favorite EVPs, is, she knew I was thinking about, dancing in the kitchen. And to this day, that's still one of the things that cheers me up when I'm feeling overly down is I will play that sound clip. It is not on the CCPI website. That's something that I keep very, very personal to me. It's one of the few things that, that I didn't publicize. It's in my private collection. But I have her voice from the other side saying, "Dance with me." Another one, again in 2020. 2020 was the year of tragedy for me. I'm not going to lie. I had a personal tragedy, life-altering personal tragedy every month that year. It was horrible, on top of the pandemic. But in August of 2020, I lost my cat. My sweet kitty cat. His name was Bubba Lou, and he was my everything. And at night, up until I moved out of the condo that he and I lived in, Bubba used to fetch. He was the craziest cat. He would fetch. I would throw things out from my bed out into the hallway, and he'd grab them and bring them back on the bed. And after he passed, I would feel him jump on the bed. And every now and then, his favorite thing to fetch would be like McDonald's hamburger wrappers. When I moved, I found a stash of them behind my dresser. Hamburger wrappers, straws, and bottle caps that he had fished out of the garbage and stashed away. And every now and then, I'd wake up in the morning and there would be a wadded up McDonald's hamburger wrapper on the bed, as if Bubba had brought it back and dropped it for me to fetch.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
but the one that the oldest favorite experience would be a private residence in Nucla, Colorado. We had a 3-story farmhouse that the owners could not keep rented. People would come in, sign a lease, pay the first, last, and deposit, and they'd move in, and within a couple of weeks, they would say, "Keep the money, we're out." And this happened over and over and over. And the owners were, kind of okay with them breaking the lease because, they're getting to keep the money, but they really appreciate regular income from this property. And so they called us in, and it was in early spring, so it was pretty cold. And the location had electricity but no heat.
Right.
And so they said, "You're welcome to start a fire in the wood burning stove. It does pretty good about heating the whole place if you get it started early enough." And so we were going to start a fire in the fireplace, open up the door to put wood in, and there's a bunch of dead birds in the fireplace. And so we had, we're smacking the stovepipe and climbing up on the roof and smacking the stovepipe, knocking more dead birds down out of the stovepipe before we can light fire in this fireplace. And there were 8 of us on location that night in this 3-story house. And every single one of my investigators was having a personal experience that seemed to be tailored to their comfort threshold. If an investigator was unnerved or frightened by seeing something, they were seeing things. If they were put off by hearing voices, somebody was, talking in their ear. And I've been doing this for so long, I'm pretty desensitized to all of it. It really takes a lot to spook me. I can have Casper pop right out in front of me and say, "Hi, I'm Casper." I'll be like, "Hey, I'm Clarissa." And so I wasn't having an experience. And I was getting kind of bummed out. I'm like, man, everybody's, having all these experiences. I'm not having anything. I'm, feeling kind of left out. And so myself and 2 other investigators, we were up on the 3rd story, and it was the attic area. And I'm looking through a night vision monocular. And the one that I was using at the time, it would allow me to see in the dark, but it wouldn't record. I've since upgraded, and I now have one that records. But I saw on the floor in this attic what looked like a dead bird. And it turned out to be a piece of crumpled up trash bag. But you go back and listen to the audio and you hear me say, ew, what is that? And this voice goes, dead bird. And then you hear me say, is there a dead bird in there? And you hear the others talking. And so it wasn't until I get home, I get out of the field and back to the lab. And I'm going over this audio and I, hear myself go, ew, what is that? And this voice goes, dead bird.
Wow.
I'm like, oh no, he didn't. It was in my head. It knew I thought I was seeing a dead bird, or it was making me think that was a dead bird on the floor. But either way, that son of a gun was in my head. Let me tell you, it's scary enough with just me in there. I don't need, some dead person, rummaging around in my noodle. So that was my personal experience that really set me off my game there for a little while. I was like, holy crap. So now I'm a little more cognizant when I'm investigating. If I think I see something, I'm very vocal about, is that a dead bird on the floor over there? Or, is there a stuffed animal in the corner on the bed? I'm pretty verbal about what I think I'm seeing, to try to, I guess, validate any future experiences.
My goodness. I got a couple questions from our audience here.
Sure.
And we'll get to those. Start off with YJ here. Clarissa, are you aware of the study in hospitals where letters or symbols are on top of the medical equipment to ask near-death patients if they saw them?
I know there have been several studies done on NDEs. I personally have not researched them. That could be, something later on down the road. But right now, I think that's a topic that's it's getting saturated. It's gaining in popularity. So, am I aware of the study? No, but it doesn't surprise me.
All right. Let's move on to Cat Chaser here, who is asking, Clarissa, do you know about floating around when dead?
I love the handle, Cat Chaser. Since I lost my Bubba Lou, I now have 6 cats. And I love them all as much as my Bubba. But floating around when dead, I'm not sure exactly what Cat Chaser is referring to. I know that there are people that can astral travel and kind of float around and have that out-of-body experience while they're still alive. But as far as floating around when dead, I'm not entirely sure where they're going with that one.
All right. Let's get to another question from Lisa here. In your opinion, what are orbs? Now,
I have a nifty anagram for orbs. Orbs, ORBS, ordinary random bits of stuff.
Why don't you believe in orbs?
I'm not saying that 100% of all orbs are naturally occurring phenomena. I'm saying that 99.999% can be explained. Whether it's dust, water, vapor, swamp gas, ball lightning. Most of the time it's dust, pollen, bugs, stuff like that. So, orbs is it's a great acronym. Ordinary random bits of stuff. And with as sensitive as cameras are today, in order to get those super crisp pictures, with all of the pixels in there, they've got to be able to pick up, the tiniest little detail. And that includes, dust particles and bugs that are in the way of the lens.
Now, you've seen orbs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's just dust or bugs or particles we're dealing with?
99% of the time, yeah, it's dust or bugs. The only criteria that I will include um, when considering an orb as potentially paranormal is if it has its own light source and can cast a significant shadow. And again, depending on the size of it, you have to factor in ball lightning, especially if you're outdoors. But, um, if you can see it with the naked eye and it has its own light source and can cast a shadow and everything, heck yeah, I will count that as, something paranormal in nature because that's not normal.
All right. We got about 8 minutes left with you. And I'm very interested in learning about your own technique
Mhm.
in going out on an investigation. You know, are you someone who likes to go to all the popular hot spots, or are you someone who likes to just do their own thing and find new locations that have never been touched, virgin territory?
Um, I like to do both, um, but if I go to a hotspot, I try to go in as blind as possible. I don't research it. I don't watch the TV shows about it. Um, I don't read the books about it. I try to go in with as little knowledge as possible so that I don't have any preconceived notions about the location or about areas within the location. I can go in and try to be as thorough as possible. If I can get into a virgin location or a remotely virgin location, uh, even better. Um, then I will try to dig up the history on it and um, try to see what's what after the fact.
I guess what I'm saying is, I'm glad the Halloween season is among us because now I don't have to hear the summer travels of all the insane asylums and battlefields that everybody brags about going to every year. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't interest me. Waverly Hills, I'm sure it would be a fun night,
Mhm.
but it doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing for Alcatraz or you know Gettysburg. That's the one
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
I've done Gettysburg a couple of times. I've never encountered anything. I've got some great photography from Gettysburg. One of them is actually in this book right here. Um, and um, the Gettysburg, I think, there's the picture that I took of Sachs Bridge in Gettysburg. Um, that is in the Phantom Hitchhiker Project and America's Haunted Roadways, available at a book retailer near you. Um, right now, they are doing some construction and restoration at Devil's Den and one other monument at Gettysburg, which could potentially be stirring things up. So, it might be a good time to hit Gettysburg because the construction, restoration, renovation, whatever projects that they're doing over there could be stirring activity up.
What I'm saying though is for me, it's about imagination.
Mhm.
Hey, I can understand where people all want to do these very popular places. It's just like families going to Disneyland or families, going to Mexico to party on the beach or whatever it may be. I get that. I can appreciate that. But a lot of times, I just feel, and I'm sure my audience is ad nauseum. Well, here he goes again. Okay, I just feel there's a real lack of imagination.
Mhm.
All right, like I look at the teams here in BC. They go to the same locations every time, and ooh, look what we got. Ooh, look what we got. EVPs, photographs. It goes
Mhm.
so by. I want to go on a road trip, man. I want to find these little weird oddities that
Mhm.
are out there. And every little community in between the big cities and the suburbs have their own legends
Oh yeah.
and their own stories that are
Yeah.
not even being told.
Mhm.
That's what drives me nuts.
Well, and Dave, we live in an age of instant gratification. We have the world at our fingertips, um, and so I think the big draw is people have had paranormal experiences at Gettysburg. They've had paranormal experiences at Alcatraz, Waverly Hills, Slater Mill, um, and so that's where people are going to flock because they want to have those experiences too. It's like people go to Disneyland, and they have fun at Disneyland. And so people wanting to have fun go to Disneyland, things like that. But I totally get what you're saying. When you want to find the diamond in the rough. And that is way cool.
It is totally way cool. And I feel for, I watch these people get all excited. Ooh, we're going here, and ooh, we're going there. And I'm like, ooh, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I really don't. It's like, hey, I'm all about going to the same location. I ran a haunted tour at our local museum to raise money for it for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Proud to say we raised 14 grand for the museum. It was fantastic until they became a bunch of idiots and we had to say no more.
Yeah.
Right. But the idea behind it is this, where should we as a collective whole be looking towards the paranormal? What should we have goals? Do we need goals? Am I pushing people too hard and saying, look, if you're just a weekend warrior, stay that way. Don't try and act big shot.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all for having that opinion and that philosophy about the weekend warriors. I feel the same. Um, paranormal TV has both helped and hindered the field of paranormal research, in that, it bred the weekend warriors, the thrill seekers and the people that are in it for the fame and fortune. Paranormal TV is what brought about He Who Must Not Be Named in the Too Tight T-shirt, with the less than ethical practices. So, it did a lot to remove the stigma attached to discussing having had a paranormal encounter, but at the same time, it bred the weekend warriors. So I don't blame you one bit for having that opinion.
Well, you know what? We're down to our final minute tonight. And I want to say a big thank you, Clarissa, for coming on Spaced Out Radio and talking about your books, your experimentation, and everything that you're doing. Keep up the great work on Phantom Hitchhiker's Project. I really think it's good. Could you do me a favor and let our audience know where they can find you?
Absolutely. You can find the Phantom Hitchhiker Project and America's Haunted Roadways on Amazon, along with my 8 other books. Or you can go to cvazquezauthor.com and order signed copies there. And that's VAZQUEZ author, or CVAZQUEZ author.com.
Right on. It has been an absolute pleasure. Keep up the great work. Seriously, I think your experiment that you're doing is fantastic. And that, my friends, I can't stand paranormal people, but it's people like Clarissa who are trying to move the ball forward. That's what we need. We need more of it. We need more people to take chances on it. And that's how we're going to find these crazy answers that we are searching for in the paranormal. It may take years, may take decades, may take longer, but that's okay. Clarissa Vazquez. Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp. Swamp Dweller's back with another spooky story. Then Nicole Sackage will fill in for Tim Senor. on the UFO Report. Spaced Out Radio's third hour is next. Great show, Clarissa.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's give you some claps here. That was fun.
Yes,
that was fun.
It was. Thank you.
Would love to do it again.
Anytime.
Perfect.
Anytime.
Perfect. I'm going to let you go get some sleep.
Yep.
I got to go prepare for hour 3.
Yep. I got to work in the morning. All right.
You take care.
All right.
Bye-bye. Great lady, that Clarissa Vazquez. Nicole's up next. I'm just stepping away for a minute. We'll be right back, guys. All right. We are about a minute away from Swamp Dweller. Then we're going to bring in the amazing and talented Nicole Sakic. Let's see here. Hey, let's give a shout out to Big Tex from Texas Front Porch. If you aren't subscribed to that channel, it's one of my favorites. Him with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and Jason McLean. Great programming there, guys. So make sure you go hit subscribe on their channel too, if you haven't already. Big Tex will be on with Jessica Jones on Sunday. So that would be really cool for all you guys to tune on in. You know, I would say it's going to be a good show. Tex also has a great power beard. You're going to, when I want that beard for the studio. Here we go, hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you all with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jacent is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight as we enter the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Last week, I took a camping trip with my sister and cousin. We were taking the trip to forget everything that had been happening in our life for some time. I was the only one with a running car at the time, and it was my pride and joy, a 1987 Honda CRX. It is a 2-seater hatchback, and we had to have one person in the back of the car since there weren't enough seats. On the first day at the site, we didn't get to do much because it took longer than expected to get to the camping area, and it was almost dark when we got there. It took us some time to set up everything, but by the time we got to eat dinner, it was already completely dark out, and we went to tent to play Cards Against Humanity. By this point in the card game, I was winning and was just about to drop the Infidels card to my family. I heard just outside the tent, "I am sorry, I cannot complete this action without Wi-Fi." Of course, we all play it off as just maybe some noise coming from a phone or somebody outside or something. But then we started thinking about it. We're not very close to any other campsites, and cell phone reception was pretty spotty at this point. Let me just say that I had Motorola, and voice actions are not even activated on it. Not only that my phone was also in my pocket on the other side of the tent. I didn't want to make a fuss and ruin our first night, so I just agreed that it was probably a noise coming from my phone. And by the time we went to bed, I hurried my sleeping bag, got it all set up, put my knife ready next to the zipper, so if something came through the door, I would be able to mess it up real quick. Those were some of the most extended hours of my life, and reminded me of how quiet it really is in the woods. Besides the sound of one messed up owl, I heard not a peep of anything the rest of the night until my cousin touched the door the following day, and I knew I could finally rest. There was nothing super special that happened the second night, but we did have neighbors that night. However, something did seem to spook them pretty badly, and they were all packing up and leaving very late in the night. That day, we went hiking and found some of the abandoned silver mines up there. We didn't go any deeper than the entrance, though, because there were a ton of tracks in the small abandoned mines as well as a ground that was probably flooded further down. After that, we went to town to eat out and treat ourselves to that hard day, and by the time we got back to camp, it was getting very late. We had a fire going, it got dark, and however, the forest always stayed silent. There was never a noise, making us know how alone we truly were. Something was sinking in my gut, though. I couldn't tell what was happening, but the fight or flight kicked in. We were sitting around the campfire chatting about random things in life, but 2 mice were dashing past us. This set us off just enough to start being honest with one another and how we were all comfortable and felt like we were in danger. We began to pack so we could call it a night and go to bed, but as we were getting the food packed up, my cousin saw something in the bushes where the mice ran from, about eye level to him. He was 6'1". He said, "I think I saw something." And I wasn't going to be one of those kids in a horror movie. I grabbed them and told them we were getting everything we could in the car and we were going to sleep in town. So we held our pillows and headed to the car, never looking away from that bush. As my car started and was getting ready to leave, my cousin was standing watching to make sure nothing was coming at us while we were getting ready to go. And he told me that he wasn't sure, but he thought he saw something start to go out of the bushes as we were beginning to leave. Of course, this is typically where the story ends, but we were not lucky that time. We looped around and started making our way down the gravel road back to town. But, to my horror, I would hit my brake lights and see a faint outline of something in the gravel road behind us in the mirror. Of course, I was too focused on moving swiftly on the gravel and not at all really focused on staring in the mirrors, so I only caught a glimpse and still had difficulty explaining it. Not only that, but as I passed more and more sites, I realized everybody who had been there during the day had seemingly packed up and left. Now, that could be coincidence, but there were no signs that anybody else was there. By the time I was getting on the actual road, I didn't feel at ease at all, so I kept a safe, swift pace, but I still felt like somebody was following us the entire time and had someone in my trunk, so I obviously couldn't drive too crazy, so I didn't give them whiplash. However, I never went under 70 miles per hour for quite some time. The worst thing was when I would brake a little bit in the corner to set the turn, and I would catch a glimpse of whatever the hell that was. It was getting closer each time. So every corner I would focus more and more on the corner ahead because I couldn't lose my cool, or else I might push too far, slip, and put us in an extra level of crap. After about 15 to 30 minutes of long switchbacks, we eventually got to a tiny bit of civilization, a small group of houses, and their lights were on. After that, we returned to the main town and slept in my car in an Arby's parking lot after taking a walk to the park restroom. The next day, after a few cups of coffee and enough sleep, we go back to the site, get our stuff, and inspect the spot where we saw the thing. At the place where we saw the thing standing, all the plants in a circle were all pushed down to the ground like something had been standing on them. We also found what seemed to be a small trail to where my car was parked and into the gravel road. We didn't find any tracks, but all the branches on the ground were broken and the plants were pushed into the ground up the road. However, none of our stuff was messed with, and some additional information. After that, we found out that we were camping near Bohemia, Oregon. Bohemia is known as a small ghost town in the Cottage Grove area up in the hills, so maybe that's connected.
Oh, wow. Another spooky story. Creepy camping from the swamp dweller. Yeah, this is why I don't like camping, people. You never know what's going to jump out at you. The forest is live with all sorts of creatures, some we don't even know about. You can check out thousands of free Swamp Dweller stories by going to his YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads and check him on out. Hit subscribe on his channel. There's a reason why he's got almost 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, so make sure you are one of them. All right, it is time to get back into the UFO game. Nicole Sackage filling in for Tim Senor on tonight's UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Yes, Nicole Sackage, who has been in depth with a lot of the big news that has been happening the last week, as she is the understudy to Grant Cameron, legendary researcher and hero extraordinaire to many of us in the UFO world. And you know what? It's too bad Grant is a Winnipeg Jets fan, because it would be so much better if he wasn't. I'm just saying. But hey, he's done it for years, the Winnipeg boy, so why not? Nicole, welcome.
How are you? Are you rested? Did you get some sleep?
I did not.
I
I've
just got off the phone with Melinda just now. We've been talking 3 days straight.
That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. You know, Melinda Leslie, who will be a guest here next week on Spaced Out Radio to go over the notes once again. And I'm going to start it off with this, Nicole, because right now, Jimmy Church from Fade to Black has been hammering this the last couple nights. And good on Jimmy. He's very good for that. Tonight, he interviewed another legendary researcher in Richard Dolan, who, let's face it, has a fantastic beard. He really does. And we obviously took a paranormal night after having Grant on last night. But this story isn't going away. It is gaining more traction on social media. Your views on your own channel have surpassed almost 2,200 views on that so far. Why do you think it's not going away?
It's honestly epic. I think those of us that have caught wind or dove on this kind of early realize its importance. It's the same level of excitement that we felt knowing the Wilson documents were coming out. So I think that sort of kicked off this ultra exciting time for us that we've been in for the last couple of years. And this is almost like a refresher or a reboot of it. And how did I put it earlier? That it's like we got original Star Wars and then now we're getting the prequel. It's like the backstory of why this is important, and it just defines now, our movement now, and how far maybe it's come and where it's still lacking. And I'm just fascinated. As you can see, even waiting to come on, I pulled out a book. Everybody wants to know about my notebooks. There's a stack of them right behind me here, if you could see them, because I've just been trying to dig through the stuff that hasn't even popped out at us yet. Just so many little tiny details are starting to come through, like the AP10, the APT10, just that. And I know Melinda I think she was on Twitter, and we all know this person as, who is it? The Hermetic Penetrator. But he's who actually came across that or noticed it and was talking about Melinda with it. So I wanted to give him a little bit of behind the scenes credit there, because there are so many of us that have sort of been activated by this. It's not just Grant, and it's not just Richard, and it's not just Melinda. It's like all of us that are kind of central around them and friendly and know how long they've worked on this, and maybe some of the finer details. I knew the minute Project Unity posted their premiere for that, or I actually knew, because I follow him through social media, that he was here in the States and that he had gone to Florida. Like, I was putting those pieces together, and I started getting excited at the potential a month ago, and I talked to Grant and I talked to Melinda. Grant still wouldn't release his papers, his notes, because of the Eric Davis side. He had that agreement going. And side note comment to that, anybody who knows Grant, they know he's not a rule bender, or he is a rule bender, but he's not a rule breaker. He's never going to break somebody's confidence or trust. And he stuck to that. A month ago, I was asking him to release these or parts of them, or do a show about them, or interview and hint at him. And he even told me no, that we had to wait, or we should get something together and get ready. So that's when I sort of started like lining things up. Like, oh, I know Melinda has her set. She's talked about him before. This is all going to be about the working group, but that ties into the history and the timeline of the Cosmic Club, or whatever everybody calls them. There's always the reiteration. So this is exciting. I think everybody who's paying attention and trying to follow along, or has been following along, is excited right along with us. Everybody kind of jumping in is like, whoa, what are these notes? Oak notes, Jack notes, Wilson Davis notes, notes all over the place. Well, go back 2 years ago, look at Grant Cameron's panels and discussions that he had about it. Look at Richard Dolan's channel and what he did, and see where Wilson documents are now. I mean, they're read into our congressional hearings. And these documents have been known. The ones we're talking about now, the Oak notes and well, obviously the Jack notes have been published. They've been out. Melinda's lectured on them. I'll have to ask her when I talk to her next for the next 2 days. I think she's lectured on this for the last 12 years. I'm trying to think of when her lecture for, was it UFO Sweden or UFO Denmark? She's lectured at it then, and I think before. And so that was enough for me to know that Jack's notes were going to reinforce Oak's notes. And if, the link was made to the Wilson documents and the significance of Oak Shannon, then we had a ball to kick down the field, and this was going to be the Wilson document excitement all over again. Have I talked as long as Grant without a breath? He is wearing off on me.
Almost. One of the things that I am liking about this is the Wilson documents, and now going into the notes of Oak Shannon that Grant is putting out there with Melinda Leslie and yourself, is the fact that this is really transcending all of ufology. There aren't a lot of factions out there that are not paying attention to this. Even the critics are saying, I've seen some of the critics who are saying, gee, I didn't believe in the Wilson notes, but this kind of gives a whole new light to maybe that they are real and maybe that they are true. It's making a lot of people second guess right now.
Well, I think this, I was tuning into Fade to Black earlier because I wanted to support what Richard and Jimmy Church had to say. And honestly, they were kind of hammering this point, Richard especially. Anybody who's been denying the Wilson documents, like with how far they've come, and if they're still denying them, it's like with so many credible people and valid people and respectable people that are standing behind them now, it's time to get on board. So even with these being released, it's just more like, come on, we can't even, just that debate seems over to me. So let's start talking about the notes. And then go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say my UFO boss, Grant, or my mentor, or however people refer to us, collaborators. Last night, he said it here on Spaced Out Radio best. He said, 2 weeks ago, I didn't see this, but now in light of all of this, these documents could now potentially be in the faces of our congressmen, the way they're interested in the Wilson documents. And the more they can come out publicly, the more attention they can get, the more notes on notes, if there are any more out there, and they can get out in a decent way. I mean, honestly, it's been so long. We're talking about 1985 here. This was a behind the scenes conversation as well with some of our mutual friends. And it's been so long. John Alexander has written a book on it. There's movies like The Men Who Stare at Goats, like Mirage Men, like I think I even named it 2 or 3 more. And so all of these snippets, what's the title of John's book? It's like, the things I went through that shouldn't exist but do. And so, I mean, he's even saying it. So now that we have like these physical things that shouldn't exist but do, and they're known and they've been known, and there's more details coming out, it's just like, no, keep them coming, get this public. We know it is. There's no denying it anymore. Also, we're talking about stuff that's going on 40 years. So, I mean, it's time. That's been long enough to just come clean. So it makes sense to me.
Word on the street is a lot of this, these documents, and now Oak Shannon has made a lot of people nervous in the governmental alphabet agency side of ufology, because there is a big talk right now that they hope that there will be one day soon more public hearings or even private hearings on this, and there is a giant push from the UFO community and even internally in Washington D.C. for immunity for a lot of these people who are involved, and that might include people like Hal Puthoff or Oak Shannon or even Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon, for what they know. How do you see this pushing towards that immunity?
I think it would contribute to solidifying it if maybe certain players in this were more vocal about what they wanted. If they want to stay silent, if they don't want to comment, then say that. I mean, I don't know anybody who harasses people to the extent that they're uncomfortable or anything like that. Most of the people I know that talk to anybody they think is significant has taken the time to build a back and forth, and they're not just shooting a one question off and getting a one answer back and leaving it. Like, I think, who was just discussing this, like with Wilson denying things, it's like, even somebody, it was Richard and Jimmy, even somebody as well respected in our field as Billy Cox, and I quote what he writes all the time and follow him night and day. He talked to Admiral Wilson and got the denial, but didn't push him further on it, because you kind of take the denial and you read between the lines, whether Billy believed what he said verbatim or was leaving it be, to continue with that. I mean, you have to establish relationships like that, whether you even trust what you're hearing or not. So that's where this long game comes into play. When you look at these players or the club members or the group members or the college, however you want to put it, they're all significant. They're all pushing in their own way. They've all kind of been public in some ways, until you start getting to people like Oak Shannon. Nobody's really known who he is. And there are people in the community like Richard and Grant and Melinda that have studied these groups of people so much, it's almost like they could write a character bio of them or give that analysis that, what is it? Right, left, their actions are this. They've said this here, but then they act this. Have I wrapped it up?
We got to wrap up there. We are going to go to the break here at the bottom of the hour. Nicole Sakic is here filling in for Tim Senor on the UFO Report. We're going to continue talking about the importance of the Wilson documents, the Oak Shannon documents, the drama of the documents, and who's speaking of them. Yeah, it's important. We're going to keep pushing this as we go on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
No, there's always drama. You don't have to focus on the drama part. You focus on the forward movie. Like, there's still work to be done. Give drama this much and then get back to work.
I think I know how to do my job. No offense.
I know you do. I know. So do I. I
So
pick and choose my moments.
give me a little trust. Give me a little
I'm
trust.
spicier in the mornings when I'm fully caffeinated, then I'm nicer at night when I'm sleepy. So yeah, man, it's been just full speed for the last 4 days, I think. Or no, what day is it? It's Wednesday. There we go. It's been full speed since Friday. I'm glad I did that prep work, honestly, a month ago.
Trying to figure out what Kevin says. Why? Because aspects in reality don't sell anymore. How do you see when everyone chases her mind when they go, or his or her mind, when they go with the flow every time, Dave? I have no idea what that means, Kevin.
I'm not reading the chat. I'm sorry. Here, I can put
That's
it up.
that's all right.
I was on private chat, not comment chat.
Yeah. Kevin's trying really hard of late to be a critic, and it's not working. I think it's funny.
Maybe he needs emojis in there because sometimes I think I sound funny, but then if I don't throw in smiley faces, I sound mean.
Kevin's pushing his Ray Romano not funny. Uh, you know,
Oh, I don't, yeah, maybe who's like that for me? I like Ray Romano. He was the voice of that elephant.
still not funny. It's still not funny. Like Dave Coulier and the late Bob Saget, not funny at all.
Oh, shut your face hole. Like Dave Coulier was the first Canadian I was in love with.
And he's not even Canadian.
Cut it out or whatever that was. I still
He's
can't
from
do it.
Michigan. He's from Michigan.
Almost Canadian then. Fine. I thought he was Canadian forever. It made me love Canada. Has nothing to do with Dave Coulier, really.
The only laugh that Bob Saget ever got in his life was the canned laughter they put in Full House. Guy's horrible.
Not true. Absolutely not true.
Not funny. Whoopi Goldberg, not funny.
What are you trying to make me mad? What's going on here? Like, I actually enjoy comedians, and now you're ripping on my favorite ones. Are you wanting to have a Larry Warren moment with me? Is what's going on?
No, I'm not having a Larry Warren moment with you. I'm just pointing out the fact.
Did you
Whoopi
see that?
Goldberg is not funny.
Oh no, just that small Rendlesham part in the going through the notes and the notes. Like, I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Oh, of
Whoopi
course.
Goldberg has been funny for like 30 years when she was dating Ted Danson at the time. That was funny. Whoopi was funny then.
That was a powered couple right there. Like,
that was.
It was. It's unstoppable. I don't know. I like even Whoopi on the Day Show. I went with all the ladies. Like, that's a fun show.
The View? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And Whoopi in Star Trek? Like, what was her character on that? That was
The View needs to go away.
There needs to be a reboot of it, maybe, but The View is important. It's women's views.
What?
Different types of women's views. Of course you don't like it. You're not a woman.
No, I'm not a woman.
No, you're not. You're not. You should pay attention to The View, though, because you see a spectrum of ladies' opinions, and that's important. You got to gauge that. You got to know what they're thinking about. It's not all makeup videos and fashion. Sometimes it's UFOs.
Hold on. Kevin's trying to, why hide in us your false, what are you scared of the truth?
Why are you arguing with the YouTube person?
I don't know. No, I think Kevin is once again, he snuck into Grandpa's medicine cabinet, grabbed the bottle of Aqua Velva and Brute 33, and is having a taste test of what'll get him more intoxicated.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois, and that's almost Canadian now in my mind. I think I'm like Canada's favorite girl next door. Like just
You
jump in the
are.
Great Lakes,
You
fly
are.
down Lake Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
almost Canada. Yeah.
Almost. And all right, here we go. We're coming back right now.
Right now.
We're rounded third. We're heading for home on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Having a debate during the break whether The View is good television or not. I vote no, and Nicole votes yes, but we'll get to that a little bit later. I want to remind you that if you missed most of the show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com.
I know. There's some.
Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we continue on with the UFO report. And, oh, look who's making an appearance here. It's Dirty Filth. He's joining us for some cartoons on the YouTube and Twitch side. And we are going to be talking about the Wilson documents, Oak Shannon, and everything that is going on. Nicole Sakic is here filling in for Tim Senor. Nicole, thank you so much for doing this. Now, on the end of the spectrum here, there is a little bit of drama going on regarding this release. And, Grant kind of touched on it last night on our show, Grant Cameron, that is, where he said that there were people trying to infiltrate and say, hey, we don't want you giving these notes unless it's on a certain show. And I'm not going to mention that show because that person does not deserve any sort of press whatsoever. But I mean, really, do we get to that part where we have something big happening here, Nicole, that is affecting the entire UFO community? We have the legends who are speaking about this in the field, whether it's Grant Cameron or Richard Dolan or Linda Moulton Howe, Linda Leslie, and some pipsqueak wants to try and shut everybody up because he's whining and crying about it. Now, I'm not getting into the drama or the names. All right. But I mean, it sounds a little bit selfish when this is something that could change the entire community. And that's where I want to put it, is the selfishness of it.
Let's not call it that. Let's not call it selfishness, because I think everybody thinks they have the best intentions in every action that they're doing when they're trying to get something like this done. But where maybe instead of selfishness, it is kind of an ego thing at play, and I'll admit it. I don't think Grant will care. I got to hear him go, yet again, I'll let somebody else release documents and I'll just talk about it afterwards. That's Grant taking a hit for the entire team, where he could be a raging egomaniac. But to address this specific situation, it is a lot of misunderstanding. And I think there's fan bases or groups of supporters that may not know like the clear picture or everything that happens behind the scenes when you're trying to coordinate 7 interested parties. You know what I mean?
I'm going to take over here for a quick second, because I know I've put you in an uncomfortable predicament, and I apologize for that. But I'm going to take over here for a second, okay? And I'm going to say something about, and this is the only comment I'm going to make publicly about this person, and I've wanted to say it for a number of days. All right? Anybody who supports this person who brought out this story, all right, give your head a shake. This kid's a liar. This kid's a liar. He's a thief. All right. And I am very disappointed in the actions on how he's treating people, the way that they have worked their tails off for a number of years on this. Now, this is my opinion. It's my opinion. And I know this may get right viral. Don't care. All right. This guy has screwed me over. This guy has screwed a number of people over that I know. And to do this to good people who've worked their tails off for decades, don't like it. And that's where I'm leaving it. Don't like it. Shame on him. Shame on him. So that's where we're leaving it on that. And that's where it's going to go.
I won't 100% disagree with you, but I will disagree with your perspective a little bit. And yeah, my feelings are a little hurt, but I honestly, Dave, you know how often I get
I
or
know.
my hard work gets in this. And honestly, I'm still like stuck on Canada, honestly, the Canada Education Initiative. So this kind of seems a little small potatoes. It's like, yeah, so what? Like, honestly, this person and I touch, I'll say it's Project Unity. Jay and I have exchanged messages. I haven't seen the latest thing that he's sent to me. And we do have respect for each other, and we've supported each other over the years. So my feelings are a little bit hurt, but I think I understand some moving pieces of this maybe a little better than he did at the beginning when all of this planning stuff started. But with that said, I am a very forgiving person. I have been, my feelings have been hurt before. I get over things really quickly. I'm never going to let that kind of stuff stop me from getting done what needs to be done. And
Well,
that's a lesson from Grant. Like, this is
see,
out, get it done. Everything's going coordinated. And when I almost cussed, when stuff goes downhill, you move on. Because
true.
this isn't the one thing that we're working on. It's always multiple things. So focus
Well,
on that for a
you
little
know what?
bit. Push this
And
through. But I will
my
say where the
my
ball
final
was
word.
dropped,
Go ahead.
a generational gap is obviously at play here. There's Grant and Melinda. You got Richard a little lower. Then you got people like me and yourself and Project Unity and Jimmy thrown in the mix. There's a big generational thing going on here. And some of us are newer, some of us are not. Some of us have played the game longer. Some of us have been behind the scenes. And, some of us are new. And
Well,
it's just little things like this, knowing that as soon as Project Unity's video broke, Grant was in place, Church was in place, you were in place. Everything happened very quickly, and it honestly was. Project Unity took 2 days to get back with scheduling everything going down. So there you go. Maybe I'm giving him an out. Maybe I'm not giving him an out because he disagrees with me. But
you're totally giving him an out.
well,
But I
try
will
to
say
have
this.
respect for people, no matter if people like people or not. Just like I gave Thomas Fessler a shout out because he's interviewed Melinda lately and she dropped bombs on his show. People think he's controversial. I don't know him very well. I know him from being on your panels. I like him. I also like Rich Giordano. Oh no, don't like Rich Giordano.
We're on radio here.
But
We're on radio.
I know. But when he says things that everybody complains about, or even if he said something that offended me personally, I maybe know better not to throw in publicly with him, but then behind the scenes, I'm like, Rich, dude, what? Haha. Okay. Oh, no. Yeah. What? Haha. Talk to you later.
I'm bringing this back to the topic at aforementioned here. All right. Getting back to the documents and everything that kind of goes along with that, Nicole, I see people like Grant and Richard Nolan and Melinda Leslie really pushing this to its next steps. I really do see that happening. And I really do see this coming across as a very, very important turn in ufology like I said, it's going to have its critics. It's going to have people who are not paying attention. But a lot of people who need to understand is this is part 2 to the Wilson documents that literally got submitted into the
2 and
hearings
3.
as evidence. Okay,
This
take
is,
it 2 and
it is. It's Wilson Davis kicked in by Oak's notes kicked in by Jack's notes. It's like a 3-part prequel here, or a, you know what I mean, 2-part prequel to our Wilson documents. And we were talking about the controversy and if what's being said behind the scenes. It's already like who has notes? Oh, somebody else from this giant list has to have notes. We can talk to this person, we can talk to that person, contact them, see what they say. I've heard that John Alexander's made comments behind the scenes, but I haven't asked him anything personally. I never have, actually, and would love to, but I have never reached out to him. The people I have, reached out to or maybe talked to, even if it's been minuscule contact, I've thrown out a line to him. And the ones I haven't yet, I'm a little chicken too still, because I maybe don't want to get the flat out rejection or something like that. But I will say there's like a rumor going around that people think Oakes messed up and he shouldn't have said what he said or released anything. And that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I think he's a very honest and respectable person, and I know he's a man of faith, and it's not fake faith, and he's found a way to incorporate, like, maybe he's found a way to incorporate these mind-blowing aspects of the phenomenon into this real life, real situation. And he's been behind the scenes the whole time. And I think the man answered in a very honest way because he's an honest person. So, and I think he still did I'm old, this has been 30 some years ago, and yeah, I know these people, I mean, he did kind of the classic dance that all of these guys do. Until there's like a zinger in there, like John Alexander, who was like, nope, nope, nope. Fine, yes, I'll write a book. Nope, yeah, wait, don't talk about it. Maybe do talk about it. And then you hear things like, you can't trust John Alexander. It's like, who says that? And do they not trust John? Do people trust? Do people trust how? It's like it sends you on this reel of
let's tell people who John Alexander is, because they may not be familiar with this man's name in ufology.
Well, you give his bio. He's been on your show once, and he was on Science Bob's show with Bob. And like I just said, I've fangirled. I've never talked to him before. Like, I know Melinda has. I know other people that are in contact with him, and I trust what they say he's said, but it's not public, record or knowledge. It's not on social media. It's private conversation stuff. So,
Well, John Alexander is a longtime member of the United States Army. He served in Vietnam in special forces. Basically, he was a soldier among soldiers. There's people who say that there was roles about him created in the movie Apocalypse Now. There is people who say that there's roles about him in the movie Men Who Stare at Goats. I mean, this guy was a badass on the battlefield. He rose to the rank of colonel. He then entered into the civilian era after his military career, but still involved in government, working with non-lethal weaponry. And we have heard reports of those being used over in the Middle East, where they shoot almost a beam at people to scare them away. And instead of killing them, what it does is it makes them crap their pants. And believe it or not, that is true. That is true.
There's
And
lots of version of the non-lethal weapon, or
absolutely.
what would be considered a non-lethal weapon. And that's sort of what I was recently digging into, it's just this non-lethal techniques adapted into the Army. I guess if that means, this is linking with the Men Who Stare at Goats book and all that stuff. Like, he was tasked to figure out these new age, non-lethal practices that were out there in the world. And so I just, little links like that. It's like, well, how much of that influenced Alexander or vice versa? And,
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating.
And John Alexander has also been known to be one of the right-hand men of former Skinwalker Ranch owner Robert Bigelow and his pursuit of high strangeness, whether it's paranormal, UFOs, aliens,
Well,
dog
let's pause
skinwalker.
there then. That shows, like, at least all the way back to 1985. I mean, this is called John Alexander's Theoretical Physics Working Group. So, advanced, because they were trying to develop new physics, which we
Well,
kind of discussed last night.
he is definitely an interesting character.
And
Definitely an interesting character.
if you look at these notes, like what you see when you're just reading the bullet points and even some of their personal notes off to the side, they were trying to come together. They were trying to organize themselves to be able to do something. John had funding he was already working with to, I guess, try to get this group organized and together and people interested. Obviously, they fell short, is what I'm saying. Like, there's been continuations of this, which is what Melinda lays out so beautifully with her charts and the lectures she's given. Grant can rattle this off. I think it's in some of his books back there. And knowing, and Richard Dolan, he follows all this. And it's just so kind of critical to know that this can be validating to the situation we're in now with current disclosure. We're seeing similarities. They're still needing more money to do what they need to do to get this job done. That started in 85 and probably before. It's always more money. They need more money. And where can they get that money? How can they fund the money? That's important to me alone, aside from all the other interesting stuff in there, like, were they looking into abductions? What cases were they considered valid and, known and backed up? And what others could they look into? Validate the biblical history. Like, that one right there is interesting. Like, how I pulled, that was what I was looking at on break. Like, what books did I have, and like what biblical references were in play, like in the 80s or shortly after the 90s? Like, what elements were being brought up then? We know, like, certain tales from the Bible, like the Ezekiel wheel and things like that we relate now. But when did we start hearing stories like that? Was it Ancient Aliens? Was it the show Ancient Aliens? Or was it before then? Little things like that I want to chase down with these notes. Me and I don't think he'll mind if I say his name publicly. Do you? From Face Club? Maybe not Face Club. You know what I'm meaning. Our Facebook Messenger club. And no, I won't mention any names. But we were discussing movies and the influence of pop culture and what true cases might be filtered into movies. Like some of the 701 cases from Project Blue Book are in a lot of movies. Like, those cases that were in the notes, have they been showing up in pop culture references? Interesting nuances like that. I think Richard and Jimmy are trying to chase down a possible ARV reference. And if there's an ARV reference in 1985, we really didn't know about that until like 1988 with, I hope I'm right, McCandlish. I'm from the Midwest. I say everybody's name wrong. I apologize. But yeah, so that's an interesting nuance, just like finding what Melinda and the Hermetic Penetrator pointed out, the ATP10 and AP10 being in the Oak Shannon notes and on the bottom of the Wilson Davis notes. That's a direct link. And now everybody's going, who's the 10? What's the 10? What could 10 mean? Everybody's theorizing. That could be the next hashtag. We're at hashtag AP10. Hashtag who's the 10? Or what's the 10?
I hear you there, Nicole. We only got about a minute left.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to make sure that everybody is up to date. Where do you see in 1 minute? Where do you see this all going here over the next couple of weeks?
I think everybody who's paying attention is going to go back and do their homework. They're going to start looking at these, and more interesting things are going to keep coming out. That's what I think. We still have Melinda's version. She's going on your show next week. I think Fade to Black is probably going to have her on. I know she's been talking with Richard Dolan behind the scenes. Like, you know, I mean, this is interesting. We still have so much to flesh out on it. It's not just a boom, here it is, bye, see you later. I mean, there's still books being written about the Wilson Davis notes. There's still discussions being talked and battles being fought. I hope those sides have come together now and just gone, they're real.
Well, we'll soon see. We will soon see. And we appreciate you coming on in for the UFO report tonight. And I very much appreciate you. Nicole and I talk very often in regards to these subjects. And, you know, if there's something that I need to know about, she's the first person I turn to. And that's why you have to pay attention when she speaks. But on the flip side, since I get the final word, us Canadians, we don't get mad. We get even. Just remember that. That's what we do. That's why we never lose. Unless it's for the Stanley Cup, which we haven't won in 30 years. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. There we go. Oh.
Has anybody picked up on that? That I know that's a personal joke between me and you, but has anybody ever said anything about that?
I've had actually people ask if they could do it too.
Oh, really?
I say no.
Do you remember the first time I did it?
Yeah, you messed it up by about 3 seconds.
But no, that was the first time I'd ever been on your show. And I was with my last collaborator that I worked with for a while, remember? And I didn't really know that. I mean, I thought it was like a group participation thing for the round table. And so I thought everybody was going to say it. And then I was just the only one. But that was back in the days where we just looked at you. You didn't ever see the panel, you know? So it's like I saw your face when I said it.
That's how we roll. That's how we roll.
You know, I was a cheerleader so long that if somebody says together, my friends or everybody now, like I'm on it. I'm like, what are we doing? Are we saying something? We will rock you. We got this. Like,
We'll rock you.
Yeah, but did you belch on the show, Nicole Sackage?
I kind of did. I was like, we own the night. And Dave was like,
But there was no
I was
belching.
3 seconds off, and he was like, what is this woman doing? Like, we weren't friends then. Dave and I barely knew each other then, right? Yeah, we weren't friends.
I'll never forget Nicole and I having it out about the woo, and she was saying I was too woo and I should be thinking woo and all this kind of stuff. And then one day I get a phone call. I need to tell you about my woo. My woo needs to come out. I don't know how to bring my woo out.
No, what started it though? Because my former partner wanted me to be all upset. And this is a research partner. I'm not talking like a boyfriend partner. But he was giving me all sorts of hell because I let you get away with telling me I had aliens. You know, I mentioned something about my green fireball sighting. You know, that's what we had gone through. And you were like, you got aliens. And I was like, I didn't say anything about aliens. I said something about a fireball. And, you know, I didn't really know it was like your you got aliens like thing. And I was told to be all offended. And it kind of sent me on this like, am I offended or not? Like, I've never been told I got aliens. Because I think now you know what I think, though. I don't say I've got aliens. I say it's something. I call it the phenomenon. I say
You got
it. The phenomenon. But then there was what you're talking about. I had this very distinct moment. And this was when this was right before I started collaborating with Grant. And I think it might have even been after he interviewed me. But you knew I was all interested in exploring CE5 and heist, and you knew I sort of had a paranormal background with this, with experiences. So, I mean, you knew I was around there. But yeah, I declared to you I was taking off my khaki pants and putting on my woo hat. And I asked for some direction. But then it was shortly after that where Grant was like, so you want to start interviewing people with me? And I was like, do I even have to say yes? Could you not hear my brain like shout it out to the universe? Like that was a given. I was like, Dave, who would say no? Who would say no to working with Grant Cameron? Like, or helping him or just, you know, anything. Like who says no? Well, now I've learned some people do say no to Grant. Some people don't like Grant. So.
How can you not like Grant, though? I mean, outside of what you believe or not in his research, Grant is the type of guy who will give you the shirt off his back.
And well, that's what I mean. It's not. I never hear of anybody disliking him when they know him personally. Like, even if he's had disagreements with them, because they know what kind of person he is. You know, they hear how he lives his life and how he spends his free time he never has free time from UFOs. That's just constant. But, you know, he's retired from his job and all that stuff. You know what he does at the time.
Yeah.
Well, more honorable than, I would say, 97% of ufology.
I want to say something for the sake of my audience here, and so just give me a minute here in regards to the person Nicole and I were debating about earlier on the air. I have a much differing opinion of this person because a couple of years ago he dragged my name through mud after he stole one of our videos and monetized it on his own channel. And when I gave him a YouTube copyright strike, he had people like Bob McGuire and Melinda Leslie and James Rigney and a number of other people messaging me to tell me to stop being an asshole and to remove the copyright strike. I said all I wanted was an apology and to demonetize the video. And the little prick couldn't even do that. He then, after I took the strike away from his channel at the betterment of the community, and I took a lot of heat over it, he still blocked me and started calling me all sorts of names within the community. That is why I have zero respect for this person. And watching him do, in my opinion, to other people in this community over the Oak Shannon thing, honestly, it makes me want to become hockey brawler again and throw a nice body check into him, and a hard one too. So I don't really care if he hears this or not. I think the guy is classless and selfish, and I'm not speaking about it again. But I want my audience to know that we do not support or endorse Project Unity, and I don't care if he ever uses my name again. He'll never appear on this show, and the guy's a fraud, in my opinion. And once again, those are my opinions, not Nicole's, not Grant's, not anybody else's. That's coming from me after this puke tried to screw my channel and me over and my reputation over. So that's all I'm going to say. That's why Nicole took her camera off, because she doesn't want to be associated with this video. And I'm okay with that.
I'm hearing voice. I just don't want to make a face that'll be interpreted as agreeing or not agreeing. And I'm like Switzerland in this. Honestly, I can get mad and I can be forgiving, and I don't like being a mad person. This is honestly my honest thoughts. I know I'm going to be around in 30 years, and I'm pretty sure Project Unity is going to be around in 30 years too. So 30 years from now, I hope he and I are laughing about this and this is all dumb. And I'm not going to hate him for the next 30 years or hate on him. So dumb things happen. People's feelings get hurt. People get scooped out of scoops or re-scoop something or unscoop it, or try to make things right, or just forge ahead. So those are all the options. I don't fall in with the Twitterverse wars or all that stuff. That's where I'm at. It's like I said, if I have a problem with somebody, I'll talk to them behind the scenes, whether it's goof on you. I was mad at you, madder than hell at you 3 months ago or 2 months ago. And you know that. Did we air our dirty laundry all over Twitter? No. I was mad at Grant a month ago too. I don't air that dirty laundry. This is YouTube private Spaced Out Radio chat family. You're all under an NDA now. Sign here. But no, you know what I mean. Like, we talk about things with our friends and we vent, and then we try to be professionals.
I understand that, but my audience also needs to understand my feelings on it. So
I know. That's why we're in our YouTube audience, know?
So yeah.
And otherwise, be clipped and shared and edited to where you sound out of context or I sound out of context. We know all the dirty stuff people do and the lines that can be drawn over nonsense. And that's not what needs to be the focus of what's going on right now. It's what these notes are, what we can look into, how many of us can fall in line and get on board and see this for the big potential that it is. And yeah, it's time to get down to business. Quit wasting time with the Twitter wars. Honestly, if one more person sends me something from Twitter and tries to tell me that it's news, I'm going to just never talk to them again. I will ask for a second and third source.
That's how we do it, eh?
Seriously, I don't want Twitter is not news. Twitter is the gossip
Oh,
before the news or the gossip after the news. If there's
oh,
some blazing war, on Twitter, then save us all. Like, no. I'm proud of what UFO Twitter accomplishes when they do their role at their best. And the war part is them at their worst. And that's why people say ufologists are their own worst enemies. So knock it off. We all need to knock it off with Project Unity. He needs to knock it off with us because it's knocked off. I've moved on. Everybody's moving on except the Twitterverse gossipers. Who cares? It's all publicity. Click on the videos, watch them all, see for yourself.
Okay, you go. We'll end it with this because I'm gonna get the last word no matter what. You could play the knock it off game. I'll play the knock it out.
I'm not meaning you knock it off. I'm meaning Twitterverse social media that's like trying to make this into something. It's into something more than it is. Like it was 2 days ago news, and now it's. I mean, I'm already working on next week's show and helping Melinda put forth everything she wants to get out.
Melinda is going to be a. You know what? A lot of people don't get Melinda. They think she's just a big babbler. But I will tell you this. She's had a number of coming out parties regarding her information. And I am so excited to hear this next set of information from her because she is so in the know if people just paid attention to
This
what
is
she
20 years of her work. And honestly, I've had a lot of people go, I thought Melinda Leslie was the one that wears the beret and does cattle mutilations. And it's like, no, sorry, that's Linda Moulton Howell. But Melinda Leslie, and then they're like, oh, she does all the MyLab stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, she does that too. And it's like, oh, she's the sky watching lady. It's like, well, yeah, she does that too. And it's like, oh, she's the UFO history lady. And it's like, yeah, there you go. That's the Melinda hat we're wearing with this, folks. We're wearing the Melinda knows her history on this group and our community just as well as our famed historian Richard Dolan. And just hands down, and I'm not slamming Richard Dolan in any way, shape, or form with my next comment, but he admitted in Jimmy Church's show tonight that he hadn't gone through all the notes in their in-depth entirety yet. And I honestly laughed to myself. I was like, this might be the first time that Jimmy Church has known something more than Richard Dolan. Like, we're this is a moment in history right now. Like, because Jimmy Church had both sets of those documents and spent, I'm guessing, the better part of an 8-hour day going through them for his own show last night. So, I mean, even knowing Richard's diligence in this right now and Grant's diligence, yesterday I interviewed him and Melinda together with the notes back to back. It took us 4.5 going on 5 hours. And they had never done that so detailed with each other before that they were like, whoa, wait, go back, find this. I didn't know that. I didn't see this. Grant was trying to say there was no threat narrative or no mention of a threat in these notes. And then they were in Melinda's notes. It's just exciting stuff like that. Like, this is big. And that's where Melinda shines, really. That's the first Melinda I found. Before the sky watching Melinda, before the My Labs Melinda. So I'm always stunned that people don't realize these things about Melinda. I honestly am. She has mentored me almost as equally as Grant Cameron has. So there you go. As every woman in this field that I've ever reached out to with a question. So, hurrah.
We should really get Enzo to give us a hair update. Because his hair is probably impeccable right now.
I'm picturing a cooler version of Johnny Bravo. Honestly, that's how I picture Enzo. after seeing him in Vegas and just his dynamic personality, and now seeing it, when he joins people's shows and podcasts and stuff, and even in the chat room, Enzo. I know.
Mhm.
Johnny Bravo, Enzo. Who else is in the chat that I haven't said hey to in a long time? Bomber, you cracked me up. And honestly, it cracked me up because I've been in the chat with you so many times, and people get surprised when they find out you're a woman. It's like, Bomber's a woman?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
True.
She's a woman that hates The View. Hashtag end The View.
Scared us all.
Here's
We found out. Scared us all.
another one that everybody's surprised. Is Renee a woman? That she has a picture of Heather Locklear, so everybody thinks she's a guy. Is that how that's going down?
Yeah. That Renee, yeah. No, she
Yeah.
disappeared. I don't know where the hell she went.
That she didn't disappear. She's always first in chat rooms. Like, she was in mine the other day. I've seen her like within the last year.
She hasn't been around here in a long time.
Oh, maybe she's got something during your time slot. That happens.
I don't know.
Maybe you made her mad.
Maybe.
I thought she was my number one fan. She was the first one in my first chat room anytime I ever broadcasted anything. And I was like, oh. And then I saw her be first in like 900 other chat rooms. And I was like, man, she's everybody's first fan favorite. But she's awesome. Like, she's always in chat rooms. She's supportive. She gives great feedback and great comments. She's fun. Like, yeah, this is what I mean when people are like, where's all the women in ufology? It's like, right in front of your faces. Open your eyes. Click on a picture sometime. Like, where the girls at? We're all around you. We're just not fighting Twitter wars, so you don't
Where'd
know.
Dirty Phil go?
He's there. His alien's pointing at us.
I know.
Maybe
Been
he
like
got.
that.
Maybe he got abducted.
I don't know.
Here, this is funny. I told you I've been pulling my books and chasing down little things. Like, I've been holding this is like the first UFO book that I ever snagged after my sighting. And I was like, oh, something's in here. I know it. But I told this story on, I think, Cameron Logan's podcast of My Alien Life. And he was like, what's the first book you ever, looked at? And it was this book. And he's like, well, how'd you get it? And I was like, I actually stole it from my school's library. I was a librarian for my school, and I knew there was the book. It was at our elementary school or our junior high, I forget, when I was in high school. And yeah, I made up some excuse to get it, and then I never returned it.
Oh my, you're one of them. You were
I'm
one of
sure I
them.
paid for it in like my end of the year dues or something. So I didn't actually steal it. I was just bad at returning my library books. Yep. Which librarians will account to this day. I really don't return them until I get that little thing that says you got to buy it unless you bring it back. And then honestly, usually I'm like, I'll buy it. Or I'll return it and then I'll order it, because honestly, my library here, I love it. I take my son to it already. I spend a lot of time in it. They've got zero UFO books, or yeah. I want to donate my books to my library. Like Grant's going to leave his archive to University of Manitoba. Stanton's is up in New Brunswick. David Marler has his, oh my God, I don't know why there needs to be a David Marler archive holiday celebration or something. I think he is really amassing something amazing. And the people in UFO Denmark too. Our pals that helped us digitize all these notes on notes on notes. Like, it's amazing.
I thought Grant's stuff was going to Sweden.
What was that?
I thought Grant stuff was going to be donated to a museum in Sweden.
That digitized stuff. Grant's all his physical stuff that he's in possession of. If I'm understanding things, he's arranged to have the University of Manitoba
Oh,
take
good.
that. But I mean, I think it's probably not well known, but I think a lot of people know Grant had health issues several years ago and was fine from it. But I think at that point, that's when he started organizing his archives. And when we're talking about 47 years of work now, like it's not all on a laptop or a computer. Like the bulk of it is handwritten notes. And I only have 27 years of half written hand notes and half written digitized computer stuff. And I've got enough handwritten crap that it's going to be a pain in the butt to deal with after I put another 30 years into this. So,
By the way, for our audience here, when Nicole hits that 50-year mark, should she be wearing a fedora, a Stetson, or a beret like Linda Moulton Howe? Actually, you'll probably, and I mean this all well to Linda, you'll probably be roommates with Linda at that point.
Oh my God. Honestly, I've never met Linda or spoken with her personally. I've never reached out to her. I've always admired her work and I think she's amazing. And I know how well loved she is and I know how crazy she could seem. And, all of that to me, like, just shows how dynamic she is, but just how absolutely professional she is and everything that she does and detailed she is in her work. And I don't know, you never hear those stories like, and I don't want to MUFON bash, but you hear people like that turn to MUFON for help and they don't get help the way they thought they would. It's like, I've never heard that about anybody that Linda Moulton Howe's ever been involved with ever. I've never heard somebody go, I went to Linda and this happened and blah. Never heard gossip about that lady like this, and we are a gossipy community, obviously. But no. And then there's just other ladies like Paola Harris. I've spoken with her on social media and she's always been great to me. And I don't even think she knows who I am. So I look at something like that as that's how she treats everybody. If you treat her respect, and that's anybody in this community. I know people say Grant doesn't get in touch with them a lot, but it's honestly like he's flooded with so many messages and tags and, hey, Grant, this, like he could devote 2 days a week to just trying to go through all that stuff and answer everybody. And it's difficult. And I know people feel bad when they can't get back in touch with everybody else, but that's where you have to have diligence in this field. When I first reached out to Grant, it was over 2 months. I was like, oh, he's blowing me off. Like I direct answered a question that he was like cattle calling, opening, like wanted to hear from people. And I was like, maybe, I don't know. And then, yeah, it was like the day he, I guess, looked through messages and then I was stunned. I was panicked. I was like, I think I called you. And I was like, I just got a message from Grant Cameron. I think I walked out of the restaurant at the end of the universe and was like, I got to take a 5-minute break. And then, yeah, I checked the message. He was like, very interesting to hear from you, blah, 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 typical Grant. And it was like, before I could even get finished reading it, I was like, yes, I want to talk to you. When? You pick the time. I'll cancel everything to talk to Grant Cameron. And then the rest is history. But I honestly, even before Grant, I reached out to Jim Peniston and I felt like I was a crazy person because I loved Rendlesham Forest so long. And, Jim Peniston was going to give a conference 5 hours away from me. And I was like, I'm going to go meet Jim Peniston. And he's such like a warm, delightful person. And so one-on-one to meet, and I got to talk with him. He gave a wonderful lecture, all this stuff. They talked about new stuff that I had never heard before. got to go to a dinner with all of them afterwards and sat there. And I walked out because I knew I had to drive 5 hours back home. And I had actually brought somebody with me. And like a second date situation, I don't know what I was thinking. I tortured this person with like 9 hours of ufology who was never in ufology. I had a great time. But I was leaving and I was like, I might not ever see Jim Peniston again. And I walked back into that dinner and I just gave him a big hug. And I was like, honestly, I was almost in tears. And I was like, thank you so much for telling your story for so long, because he inspired me. You know, that was like the first case. I was like, oh my God, why isn't everybody like listening to this? And this is it. Like, if everybody knew about this case, they would know ufology's real. And
Well,
it's continuing
well,
now. That's why I follow it.
yeah.
And yeah, I could still message Jim Peniston right now and be like, hey, Jim, da 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 da. What do you think about this? And he'd be like, hey, Nicole. Like, so yeah, it all started because I shook the hand that touched the craft of unknown origin. I laugh about that, you know. I shook the hand that touched the craft. I don't know. Within 2 years later, I'm working with Grant Cameron. It's like a dream. It's like a fairy tale, except I'm not a princess.
Maybe you will one day.
Nah. I mean, I don't know. Where are we going to colonize next? I'll be the first princess of our moon base. How about that? Or the first princess of Mars. Can that be an honorary title?
Sure. We can do
Totally
that.
accept that. Yep. Because, you know, we're redefining princesses these days. Definitely. I'm going to answer your question of what hat I'm going to be wearing in the future. Can't be a beret because that's a classic icon. Every beret LMH has ever owned or wore needs to be a part of her archive that's saved till the end of time. Just like, oh my God, when you go back and watch Melinda Leslie's old lectures, if you can find them, like some of her suits that she wears are, I'm just like, oh my God, I can see those on like display of how they like put like Bob Mackie dresses on, you know, and they like sell them for fashion and, you know, iconic things from decades. Like that's how these ladies' wardrobe is. It's like, that's all high fashion stuff to where it's like retro, and somebody somewhere would just die over that, who's in like fashion and fashion history and all that stuff. And that type of stuff is girly and womanly, or, you know, whatever. But it's also unique to these women we should celebrate in the field. Like, it's iconic. Linda's beret is iconic. Just like your beard and your long hair. You still thinking about cutting it? Yeah, might be time. I'm thinking about cutting mine too. But the hat I'm going to wear, I'm kind of so fascinated with UK ufology right now. Or just my new friends I've made over there or whatever. I see my future hat as one of those pretty fascinators that are like weird. It's not really a hat. It might be like feathers. So I'm just, or very Sarah Jessica Parker from Sex and the City. She would wear a bird on her head.
Oh, horse face? Yeah, no, don't be like horse face.
I call her foot face. I think her face looks like a foot, but it's a cute, pretty, beautiful foot. So, yeah.
No.
But her hats and her fashion, all that stuff, hands down. I mean, yeah, she's iconic. But yeah, I'll wear one of those silly Carrie Bradshaw hats. Or what are those ones that have the veils? I'll pull that veil down. Nah.
Look at, you can't even tell the difference. You can't even tell the difference.
Oh, no, take that down. Take it down. No, I don't think that at all. a beautiful horse. If you're gonna compare to animals, just like I'd be a beautiful ferret. Wait, is that a ferret face? What's the face Julia Roberts does in that movie that always cracks everybody up? Platypus face. And she's like,
Well, she's got that wide mouth.
I know, I can't do it. I got skinny lips. But yeah, when you got beautiful big lips, do platypus face. It's hilarious. What ones did I do as a child? Because I couldn't do cool stuff. Or what? My friend had this great one where you dry your teeth off, and you roll your lip up, and you look like Skeletor. There, that's the one that somebody needs to clip of me and make some terrible meme. It's Nicole's Skeletor face.
Look at Enzo here.
Shout out to you. You taught me Skeletor face. That was like the craziest thing when we were kids on the recess. She was also with me for my green fireball sighting. There, I just outed her publicly.
You're Jessica Parker?
No, my friend Amber. That would be a story. I like famous people that have UFO stories, and musicians and all that fun stuff. Movie directors. It's everybody, really, when you start. Everybody has some sort of weird, high strangeness story. Everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody. Find me one that doesn't. Even if it's just something like a deja vu. That's high strangeness to me.
It's always high strangeness.
Wow, what do you think of all this remote viewing talk? Honestly, like, I know
Love it.
yeah, I know, but like, how do you think the outside world's gonna take the RV talk? You think that's more acceptable? Like, like an angle of acceptance?
Don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
I'm trying to telepathically talk to you right now. Is it working?
Not really.
Yeah, I need more sleep. Hey, I told you about my moment where we were doing the pictures. Like, my friend sent me his wall, and I was like time stamping, like focusing on which picture he was thinking of, type of thing. And we were trying to timestamp to see, and I would write my guess as to what it was, and he was writing what it was, and I was 3 for 3. I was kind of like, yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, I felt it. And see, I've been exploring the woo for how long now? Or being like full blown into it instead of just reading about it and seeing what other people say. And you remember when I freaked out with my first heist stuff and was like, oh my God, I think this is real. I think I got results. Oh, I have had to eat a lot of crow sandwiches. I spent so many years as such a high skeptic. And there you go. That answers your question from earlier. It's like who gets mad at Grant, or who could ever hate Grant or turn their back or call him crazy or whatever if they really know him. My experience was when I went woo out of nuts and bolts and skeptic land, I lost a lot of friends. And I think Grant did too when he went full woo. And what does he say? When did he have that massive download at the conference when he was bored listening to whoever, and the 20 something downloads came to him about books and all the other stuff? And yeah, he said that was it. Full woo, consciousness, all that. That's when he's put it on. He wrote it down actually, like immediately after, and then yeah, the rest is history. I think he carries it around with him. I have a picture of it, actually, for that biography.
Nice.
Well, you're my co-author. He dubbed you the biographer as well.
He did not.
You don't remember that?
Oh, I thought he was joking.
Well, who else is going to write his biography? Project.
Of course. I got to get my own book done first.
Yeah, get on it. Hey, you've got an artist that can help you publish books.
He disappeared.
It's all connected. That publishes books. You know several people that publish books.
Yeah, I know.
Philip Mantle publishes books.
I know. On that note, it is time for us to say goodnight to everybody. Thank you, Nicole Sakic, for staying up late with us.
I didn't mean to, but I'm glad I did.
Tomorrow night, our guest, Craig Campobasso, UFO Hotspots, and we'll even get into a little bit of Valiant Thor with Craig. So we'll have a good time. Then on Friday night, we have the round table, which is going to be awesome. And then we start a new month again right after that.
Hey, no, it's not another month. It's Halloween month. Like, break out the pumpkins. I'm ready. I've already drug up my Halloween stuff. I have this rule of after it's September birthday holiday season between me and my son and all the other Virgos.
Best advertisement that I've seen recently was from a tire shop somewhere in the States who says, "Hey, ladies, come get your pumpkin spice winter tires today."
Maybe they mean you get pumpkin spice coffee while your tires get changed. I don't know.
That is not what they meant. And I thought it was hilarious.
Hey, whatever gets ladies keeping their vehicles safe right before winter driving. That's what I say. Kick those tires, ladies. Keep your air filled. Make sure you got tread. If you're in snowy weather, just buy 4-wheel drive. Why are you messing around?
On that note, thank you tonight to Tex, Mike Time2, T2E, Gary, Doug, Cat Chaser, and Trisha for the super chats. We'll see you all tomorrow night for the show. Good night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.